record it, please. Yeah, I don't really like to say things twice.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, this would be really fun. Thank you for inviting me. I am so stinking excited for people that when their eyes are finally open and you realize that, I mean, is it all right if I swear occasionally?
Oh,
Of
stop. I'm
course,
your
of
sister
course.
Okay.
on this
Uh,
one. I'll beat you.
well, here's why. I mean, my favorite word ultimately at this point is fuck.
Me
Yeah,
too. Fuck
me
it.
Well,
too.
but it's almost tongue in cheek or for humor purposes because to fuck is an old farmer's term meaning to implant or to occupy. So when our biology implants into the uterine wall of mom or mother, we're a motherfucker, literally.
Oh, Lord.
So it's all biology. And they get us to actually use all of these ridiculous terms and everything in a derogatory fashion or whatever. But we're using the very language that keeps us imprisoned mentally. We're using it. So, and we don't know it. We don't even know that we're using this language. I mean, flat Earth. And I know that it seems like I'm on a tangent. I'm not. Flat Earth. And no disrespect to anybody that believes that nonsense, but if you go biologically back to the etymology of the word placenta, you'll realize that the placenta is flat soil or flat land, and the placenta is the empty biology, which is devoid of what was inside. The baby used to occupy the inside, but when baby comes out, it's an empty, flat soil, and that's what the placenta gets the birth certificate. So the birth certificate evidences a flat soil or flat earth, and then it gets a title, and that title we see as a birth certificated name. So now all these idiots out there that are talking about flat earth are actually promoting the birth certificated title rather than the living baby. So the psyop, the global psyop, is to get us to use the terms that actually perpetuates the fucking problem. And
Well,
and
I'm
it's
going to
it's
say
real.
something because I know that there's a couple of stringent flat earthers in here. And I tell you what, I've had to take some kicking myself and had an ego test as well a couple of times, which is so people are really going to have to put on their big boys' pants for this show. There's no, Curtis takes no prisoners here, and I love it. It's exactly how I like to be. And it stings, it stings like a little scorpion, but it is the truth. And I just want to say, Curtis, I've been down this journey here for a bit, trying to find every loophole possibly known to man. And this little natural team occurred around me, Charlie and Mary and Brian and Mary and Pauline and Christine, to do so much for me behind the scenes. And they were the ones who introduced you to me. So it was my team who found you, not me at all. And I says, okay, yep, I have to find this guy. So thanks to my team for setting this up. And I'm going to graciously thank God for the gift of a break today. And I'm going to take lots of notes and I'm going to let you take hold. And I'm going to mute my mic and let you have the floor. I'm glad to be a student today.
Well, jump in anytime you want. If you want to yell at me or scream at me, or if you think you have evidence contrary to what I'm saying, please introduce it. It won't work. I'm just telling you, it won't work because I get it. This shit is too easy. The truth is all or nothing. That's it. There's no middle fucking ground. There's none of that bullshit. And I'm going to start with one thing, a very simple idea. Well, it's not. It's simple to me. It won't be simple to most people. And by the way, again, if I say anything that sounds offensive to you, you need to rethink your position. If your initial premise is off, everything that is subsequent, everything that follows is fucked up. And that's what I'm getting at. Most people think that their idea is correct, and but it's not. So everything they discover along the way that's pursuing that wrong idea is also wrong. There's an old saying that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The problem is, if your first step is in the wrong direction, who gives a fuck what you find along the way? It's all wrong. You're going in the wrong direction. So that's kind of where I'm at on this, is once you understand the truth all the way down. By the way, the truth is also non-reducible. Once you find it, it can't be reduced further. And that's it. And that's the problem, is that I can tear apart all of these stupid ass ideas and all these psyops that are out there, but nobody will listen because it takes too much intellectual energy to think. And people don't want to think anymore. They want to follow bullshit because it's easier. It's easier to go into Alice's rabbit hole or into Alice's realm or into the once upon a time and all the woo-woo bullshit when in fact we're not subject to the woo-woo. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong on this. I love the woo-woo. I love the idea of the ether. I love all of these really cool ideas. And I don't talk about them. I don't talk about them for a reason. Our substantial existence in this realm is subject to objective reality. In other words, yeah, I get it. I get there's more space than solids. I get all that shit. But I don't talk about it because the world right now needs people to live in and experience objective reality, not their belief systems. And that's where this gets to be a struggle. So let me do some science real quick. And once I explain this, I'm going to shut the hell up because then I want somebody to ask me any question about all of their nonsensical ideas. And again, no disrespect. I was there. I did all this. But when I first started, I mean, I believed all the patriot shit. I believed all of those legal codes and all that stuff. Oh, Kurt, the person is horrible. It's the person, biblically, the person, my God. Well, you know what? I have a person and I'm talking through it right now. In fact, I'm speaking to you people right now in person. What a joke. I'm not speaking to you as a ghost. I'm speaking to you in person. Now, you can't see me because I put a piece of duct tape over my camera because of technology deciding it's okay to trespass upon my supreme being. You know, they're saying that they have a right to my privacy, and I'm saying that they don't. So two things. I'm going to explain first the problem. I'm going to actually tell you what the problem is, and then I'm going to explain how to get out from under it in reality, not any of the belief systems or you know any of the legal or law guys, because they're all wrong too. All the patriots and all that crap, they're all wrong. So let me explain that our privacy, and I'm talking about everywhere in the world. My privacy, my supreme being began at fertilization. In other words, when dad's 23 chromosome sperm merged with mom's 23 chromosome ovum, when I became a brand spanking new unique individual entity as a 46 chromosome zygote. That zygote is the origin of the species known as man. It's also your godly estate in its entirety. In its entirety. There's nothing missing. So that's a non-reducible position. My zygote also biblically would be the ark, Noah's ark or whatever, with all of my ancestry, 2 by 2 all the way back. That's my origin. That's everybody's origin, the zygote. And it's non-reducible. You can't go beyond it without destroying the man himself. And that's what I'm getting at. The zygote is the beginning of your existence and your privacy. So let me explain the concept of being first so you understand supreme being. Being is presence. That's all it is. I mean, I am present right now, mind, body, and spirit. I am fully present. And I've been present from that zygote. In other words, I've existed in the present moment from zygote to this moment. From zygote to this moment, I've been present physically. So it's that presence that actually gives me all of my rights. The fact that I'm living, I have rights. If I was a decedent, birth certificated estate, I'd have no rights. Ghosts don't have rights. Dead bodies don't have rights. So I've been fully present from fertilization to this moment, giving me my rights. Now, what's interesting about that supreme being aspect is that my beingness, my presence from fertilization to this moment is unbroken. It is whole, WHOLE, nests from that point to here. Continuous and contiguous biologically. In other words, there's no break. It's all evolutionary process from that single cell zygote to this moment. It's all evolutionary process. Oh, Kurt, but we didn't come from monkeys. I didn't say that. We didn't come from monkeys, but we did evolve from a single cell to a multi-trillion cell entity, the one speaking to you right now. It's all one estate. That single cell was the beginning. By extension, I'm it. It's like the acorn and the oak tree. The acorn has all the information that gives rise to the oak tree. The zygote has all the information that gives rise to man, but it's all one thing. It's all one estate. That's why even the Bible agrees with that. It says, I and my Father are one. John 10:30, King James Version says, I and my Father are one. I and my Father are one. And by the way, I'm going to do a data dump real quick on you guys, just so you, I mean, it's recorded so you can listen to it again. But as I think it, I'm going to say it. My father is not my dad. My dad provided 23 chromosomes in the form of sperm. That's my dad. My dad had his own 46 chromosome existence. So my dad did not give me his 46 chromosomes. He only gave me 23. My mom provided 23 chromosomes in the form of an ovum. When they combined, they created through fertilization a 46 chromosome entity and godly estate in its entirety, non-reducible. Now, here's the thing. Where did I come from? Where did I come from? The one right now speaking, where did I come from? I came from the zygote. I'm an offspring of that single cell. Through the evolutionary process, that intelligently designed single cell evolved into me. My DNA, my biology is exactly the same as that one first cell. First in time, first in right. So from that moment to this moment, it's all one estate. It's all one estate, and you can't reduce it. You can't remove any piece of that biology without destroying the whole. And that's an important thought down the road. So you got from that moment to this moment, and if you look at it, I'm going to simplify it. You have baby, umbilical cord, and all of the extra embryonic biology of yours. That's all one estate. You have to see all of this biology of yours as one estate because that's where your sovereignty is. That's where the supreme being presence is, and that's where your all your rights emanate. They emanate from that first cell. This is important biology because if you understand where you begin and end, which is only your biology, you'll understand that your rights, your private rights, are only within that biology, no other. And it's important to understand that that's a right to privacy as well. Nobody has a right to trespass upon your biology, and it begins at fertilization. It begins at fertilization, and this is important. I put up I did a call the other night, and I put up a illustration, and the illustration is the first, I don't know, 9 days in the womb. And I could put it up. It is at my Facebook page, but what it shows is that on the average, from the moment of creation, i.e., day 0, which is when fertilization event occurs, the first 6 days in the womb, the first 6 days from creation to, or just prior to implanting into the wall of the uterus, where you're fucked, the first 6 days you're just floating in space in the waters of mother, on the waters of mother. Let me explain this. In space, most people, when they hear the word space, they look up. They look up like, hey, there's space. No, I'm going to get up out of my chair right now and I'm going to walk across the living room floor. I am now moving by coordinates through space. I used to be over there and now I'm here. I mean, when I look back, I can look at the chair that I used to be in, but now I'm standing over here on the other side of the room. I moved through space with that action. I don't have to be up in the stars or amongst the stars. I moved through space. So when you hear the word space, understand they're just coordinates where you're currently located. And then you move through space by changing those coordinates. Well, anyway, the same thing occurs in the womb. As you're floating on the waters of mother, you're moving through space, disconnected from anything at all. So you are completely untethered to anything earthly. You're floating through space for the first 6 days. On about the 7th day, on the average, you land into the womb of mother. You land into the wall of the uterus. That's your first impression, by the way. You can never make a first impression twice, can you? So your first impression is actually the landing into the soil of mother's womb, the uterine wall. That's your landing. Well, Genesis 2:2 King James Version says the first 6 days God's creating, and on the seventh day he rested. Well, that's you landing into the wall of the uterus. Well, the problem is the birth certificate around the world only evidences the landing. It only evidences the landing into the wall of the uterus. I will explain that biologically in a second. So, in other words, if the birth certificate only starts at the landing, which is also known as implantation, which is also known as conception. So, conception is not creation. Conception happens about 7 days later at implantation into the uterine wall. That's why all the courts around the world use the word conception, because it can be confusing with creation. Creation is called fertilization. Implantation is called conception. Also, they've changed the legal definition of pregnancy to mean conception, which means they do not take into account those days you're floating in space. The first 6 days you're floating in space in the waters of mother. They're not taken into account with the birth certificate. So when you claim a birthday, you're missing the first 6 days, which brings you all the way back to creation. If you're missing the first 6 days, there's no evidence of you existing. The other thing about being on the waters of mother and not having an account of those first 6 days is an old patriot term called lost at sea. Lost at sea is those first 6 days where you're on the waters of mother unaccounted for. Because remember, the birth certificate only evidences implantation, so it doesn't go any further than implantation. It doesn't go all the way back to your true origin, which is fertilization. So those first 6 days, you're lost at sea. By claiming a birthday, you're fucking lost at sea legally. There's no accounting for those first 6 days. Also, you're now disconnected from God. You're disconnected from creation. And now you have a legal document that evidences your claim away from creation, your agreement to separate yourself from, we'll call it God. These guys know this shit biologically, and they got us to participate willfully with this birth certificated character. It's not the name, it's not the legal name like a bunch of people believe it is, because the legal name is a product. It comes after the fact of your separation with God. After the fact. Now, how do you get separated? You get separated by them clamping and cutting the umbilical cord. And by doing that, the material that evidences creation has been removed from you. The baby that claims, or the man that claims the birth certificate, remember, he's claiming something that is not attributable to him. What do I mean by that? The baby has no paper. There is no birth certificate for the baby. The birth certificate is for the afterbirth material. It's for the placenta. The placenta is a feto-maternal organ. Jesus and Mary, Madonna and child, mother and child. That's the feto is the baby's biology. The maternal is mom's biology. So what they have is they've created a fetal-maternal organ that gets a certificate that evidences the combination of mom and baby, Jesus and Mary. Now here's the problem. That combination of biology, think about it. Remember I said that your private rights begin and end with your private biology. In other words, only yours. Your 46 chromosome entity, that godly estate, that's your entire estate. There's nothing more and nothing less. That's where your privacy is. If you allow for the fetal-maternal organ that gives rise to the birth certificated character into your life, if you adopt that character, and I mean adopt, it's a brood parasite. It's a cuckoo bird. When the cuckoo bird plants its egg into the nest of another bird, when that bird breaks out of the egg, it kicks the legitimate bird out of the nest. Well, that's what the birth certificated character is. It's a brood parasite. When we adopt that character, the baby's gone. The living being is kicked out of the nest. So I call the birth certificated character, the state creation, a brood parasite, because when we adopt it, the baby gets thrown out with the baptismal waters. That's exactly what happens. When we claim that bullshit Jesus and Mary, birth certificated, Gregorian calendar based character, baby gets thrown away. The living being gets thrown away. Now you have a feto-maternal character that doesn't have private rights, because remember, in combination, because the placenta is viewed as one thing separate from mom and baby, this placenta, this feto-maternal organ, doesn't have private rights. It has what's known as a bundle of rights. A bundle of rights. So you got this combination mom and baby's biology that has a bundle of rights, which is usually attributable to real estate, land. Well, guess what? Mom's biology is considered land, and I'll explain that in a second. Give me another 5 minutes, and then I'll open up the floor, so to speak. And then you guys can all fall through. No, that was a joke. I hope you guys find that my humor actually is humorous. Back to this feto-maternal placenta. The United States and the rest of the world, the United States recognized this feto-maternal position as mom and baby, because the organ evidence is mom and baby. In the 1920s, 1921, they actually had a program in place through what's known as the Shepherd-Towner Act. Shepherd, like Jesus, like the shepherd. The Shepherd-Towner Act identified mom and baby separately from father. And mom and baby then were subject to the welfare state. So in 1921, they already had this shit going on. And of course, by 1933, they had a birth certificate that evidenced only mom and baby, away from dad. So the birth certificated character is only for mom and baby, but it's a combination of mom and baby. It's the afterbirth material. It's the placenta. And by the way, the placenta itself is connected to baby originally through the umbilical cord. And so again, the umbilical cord is cut, which is still attached to the placenta. So when people talk about being connected to the matrix, they're actually talking about, they don't know they're talking about this, but they're actually reconnecting. It's a recording, a record. It's a record of that infancy. And when you claim the birthday, you're recording yourself back to that fetal-maternal placenta, which again, the wall of the uterus, mom's own biology, is known as the matrix. That's the matrix. So when you claim a birthday, you reconnect or record yourself to the infancy position, which has no legal capacity, by the way. You're recording yourself to the infant position, which is still tied to mother. Well, it's still tied to mother through the placenta. And that right there, that fetal-maternal position is the bundle of rights. The baby's biology landed into mom's uterine wall. And when a part of that uterine wall comes out as the placenta, as the afterbirth, some of baby's biology is still implanted into that piece of ground. That piece of ground is also known as a strand of ground. So in essence, baby is stranded on this maternal island, separate from the rest of the world. And that's okay. That's an aside, but it may be too much information right now. But at least you're recording this, and you can start to look into the concept of being stranded. There's lots of movies out there about being stranded on some island that nobody knows exists, or that's not part of the rest of the world. That's the strand of ground. The birth certificate evidences a piece of you on an island separate from the rest of the world. This is real. And it's also known as insular. If you see the word insular, it means island possession or an island. Anyway, this bundle of rights, and this is everything. This is the whole game. When you understand the fetal-maternal organ that gives rise to the birth certificated Gregorian-based calendar character, you'll realize that the bundle of rights is the social contract. It's a social contract because it's you, it's mother and child, and that's global. So all of these mother and child biologies get put into one global democracy run by the UN, by the way. All of the mother and child biologies that are cut off or separated from baby at the port of entry to the new world beyond the womb, all of this biology gets pooled into one giant democracy that is then ruled over by the United Nations. They call it, they use the word measure, but they actually call that just cogence. The legal term or the Latin term for this combination of biologies is JUS space COGENS, just cogence. So that's what they're using around the world to make you whole again. They're saying that they have the ability to put Humpty fucking Dumpty back together again through this just cogence international measure. And what it does is it brings peace to the world. They're bringing peace to the world by reconnecting you with the rest of the world in a very pacifistic or pacifist way. So they have the ability at the UN level to make you whole and to bring peace to the world. And that world is basically you, the whole man or the sovereign. Again, I'm going to explain the biology so you understand how the placenta or what the placenta is. But I'm just saying that
explain the accretion. I find that
that's
one
where I'm going next, because the bundle of rights only exists because of that. Once people understand the bundle of rights is the worldwide social contract, we see it here as the social insurance. It's called social security. Here in Canada, it's called social insurance. But all this bullshit social shit, all of this health related social shit is based upon this bundle of rights, which gives rise to this social contract around the world. I don't want anything to do, no offense anybody, but I'm private. I've been private since fertilization. And if I claim that birth, that combination, that chimera, that monster, if I claim the birth certificated fetal maternal organ character based upon the Gregorian calendar character, I have now put myself into a pool with the rest of it's a dead pool, by the way, because it all dies. I put myself into a dead pool globally that gets to be ruled over or managed by a bunch of shitty people, a bunch of psychopaths that say, hey, listen, apparently all of these children, all of these people want to be beneficiaries to the system, so we're gonna give them the beneficiary status, but the beneficiary status doesn't have any rights. It can't own property. I mean, it all comes back to our own admission to this birth certificated character, not the name. The real problem in all of this is the birthday, not the name. The name exists after the fact. So the name is a symptom of the problem. It is not the problem. It is the birthday admission which gives rise to this fetal maternal separation, which is the bundle of rights, which is the social contract. When people don't want to participate in this nonsense, they have to recognize their godly origin as fertilization, and that their own biology exists only from fertilization to last breath. When you understand that you are literally all present and accounted for from fertilization to last breath, you have removed yourself from the social contract. The mantra around the world should be that I, for one, am all present and accounted for from fertilization to last breath. Now, last breath in my case is an inhalation. I'm as long as I keep inhaling or I am inspired, I'm breathing in. That is the breath of God, and it gives me life. As long as my last breath is an inhalation, is an inspiration, I am living. If my last breath is an expiration, then I die. That's it. So from fertilization to last breath, that's the living man. Not from birthday, but from fertilization. I'm not lost at sea anymore because I recognize the first 6 days where God was working to create me exists. The birthday does not recognize those first 6 days. So the birthday evidences you being lost in the sea of mother. And that's the problem. Their whole game is based upon you not knowing your godly origin. By the way, I use the word godly as in nature or laws of nature. I'm not a religious guy. That religion is toxic. And by the way, it doesn't matter whether it's Protestant, or Catholic. It's all bullshit. They're both bullshit. They're both just ideas that have destroyed the world. Divide and conquer. Okay. The accretion. This is amazing because this is the immaculate conception. Immaculate conception. Immaculate, perfect conception idea. The perfect idea to rule the world. To rule the world. Rule, by the way, to rule something is to measure it. And to measure something is to cut it and create a specific quantity. By cutting the umbilical cord and creating a specific quantity, they're able to rule the world by that measure. And of course, the UN uses the word measure. The United States uses the word rule. But anyway, the accretion. This is amazing. So mom and dad lay together. By the way, what day was it when mom and dad lay together? It was today. Come on. I mean, my mom and dad didn't lay together 64 years ago. They laid together today when they were together today. This is not semantics, by the way. This is reality. Reality exists in the present moment. Life exists only in the present. I've never been in the past. I've never been in the past. So think about this. Mom and dad lay together. In my case, mom and dad lay together 60, we'll say 4 years ago, according to their time standard. So 64 years ago, my mom and dad lay together. It was today for them at that moment. Dad brings building materials to the job site called sperm. Mom brings building materials to the job site called ovum. The job site itself is the womb. So dad deposits some building materials, mom deposits some building materials. They combine through an act of creation known as fertilization. The result of that is the 46 chromosome zygote, which is also Noah's Ark, so to speak. That single zygote has all the information of my dad's entire bloodline, mom and dad, their moms and dads, their moms and dads, 2 by 2, all the way back. So my dad's entire bloodline is in those 23 chromosomes that he donated. Same thing with my mom. My mom's 23 chromosomes has her parents and their parents and their parents and their parents, 2 by 2, all the way back. Does that sound like Noah's Ark to you? It is. The Ark is an archive, a DNA archive that evidences the bloodline of my father and the bloodline of my mother. Now, I'm going to call those bloodlines vines. It's the vine of my dad and the vine of my mom. When you put those two vines together, what do you have? Divinity. Divinity. Your divinity is evidenced by the single cell ark known as the zygote. That's your divinity. But if you claim a birthday, you have separated yourself from that divinity. You're the fallen man or the fallen angel just by claiming a birthday, for crying out loud. And these guys are brilliant by even thinking of this. Anyway, back to immaculate conception. Now, remember, you exist as this one cell. Your entire godly estate is in one single cell, all of you. And remember, the truth is not reducible. So you can't actually go beyond the existence of that one cell because you didn't exist prior. Priory of Sion. Anyway, you didn't exist prior to that. So what's interesting is here you are existing as a single cell. You're floating in space on the waters of mother for the first 6 days as a godly entirety, as an entire estate. Then on the 7th day, when God rests, you land into the soil of Mother Earth or mom or mother. That's called implantation, also known as conception at this point, legally. When you land into the uterine wall, now remember, you're a product of both mom and dad's vines. You're divine in the nature of the bloodlines of both mom and dad combined. That's your divinity. So as a single cell, you're divine. And that divinity now is about to land into the wall of the uterus. Do you understand that you are already WHOLE? You're already whole. It doesn't matter what happens after this. You're already existing as a whole living estate. Luke 5:31 at the King James Bible says, they that are whole need not a physician. In other words, you don't need any administrative process. You don't need to be ministered to because you're already whole. And even out of Jesus' own mouth, he says it. They that are whole need not a physician. So once you understand that the singularity of the zygote, that 46 chromosome zygote, is whole, now you understand that the first 6 days you already exist complete, nothing missing. You're whole, not defective, not diseased. You don't, I mean, you have sovereign immunity. Sovereign immunity. By the way, sovereign immunity from the zygotic, that single cell exists. And here we go. I know I talk fast and I know I add a lot of things and I take a lot of things for granted that people don't know. But here's what's interesting about your sovereign immunity. And I'm talking to everybody here. My zygote was in the womb of mother, in the waters of mother. Are those waters of mother subject to Illinois law? No. Are those waters of mother subject to the United States law? No. Are those waters of mother subject to the United States of America? Are they subject to the Americas? Are they subject to my mom's parents' origin, Greece and Sweden? Are those waters of mother subject to my dad's, Germany and I don't know, wherever else he was from or wherever his bloodline came from? Are the waters of mother subject to any of these fictional jurisdictions anywhere in the world? No. In fact, the mother's womb is foreign to all of the fictions. The mother's womb is reality. The mother's womb is nature. Nature is outside or beyond the entire once upon a time fictional realm. There are no jurisdictions for the womb. That means that your sovereignty or your sovereign immunity is foreign. Each living supreme being is a foreign sovereignty, is a foreign sovereign. I'm using the word sovereign to mean WHOLE, whole. Your godly estate has yet to be broken apart or destroyed through the birth certificate admission. So your sovereignty begins, your foreign sovereign immunity begins at fertilization. That's it. That's the whole thing. Sovereign immunity it begins at fertilization. It begins with the zygotic estate, the godly estate known as the zygote. But it has to be WHOLE to be in play. If you claim a birthday, it's called clip sovereignty. You're cut apart, you're clipped. And then your sovereignty gets placed in a trust or in a Sedekei trust, and now the trust gets administrated by some others. So your sovereignty becomes collective. And to me, collective sovereignty is an oxymoron. You can't have collective sovereignty. You're either sovereign or you are not. It's that simple. Life is sovereignty. If you claim a decedent estate as beneficiary or anything else, you're not a living being or a supreme being. If you're not a supreme being, you have no rights. Dead bodies don't have rights. Ghosts have no rights. Dead bodies can't own property. Ghosts can't own property.
So, Curtis, just to wrap that one up there about the story then with the accretion. The accretion didn't come first. The zygote came first, and in a response to the zygote, the hormones of the mother and made this accretion because
okay. I was driving the point home that you already exist in your entirety prior to what's about to happen. And this is important. Ready? Now I might have to, I'm using a headset right now, so if I sound different in about 2 minutes, it's because I had to plug my phone back in for energy. It was dying. So let me do this real quick. Make sure that I can talk to you, by the way. Make sure you can hear me. Here we go. I'm going to plug in. Can you hear me?
Yes,
No,
I can hear you.
you can hear me. Okay, let me see if I can get you there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to try to put you on speaker. Hang on a second because I walk and talk. I don't really like putting this microwave up against my brain. Hang on. Let's see. You there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Okay, now I can hear you. Great. So here's the accretion. And this is why it's so important to understand biology. I already exist. Now, the priory of scion, which emanated obviously in Europe, scion, when you understand what a scion is, it's an extension, or think about it as a stalk. The umbilical cord is a stalk. It's an extension from creation to the fruit of that creation, which is embryo, fetus, baby. But the stalk itself is the scion. So the priory of the scion is actually the zygote, the origin. What's interesting is what happens. Mom is actually preparing her uterine wall for accepting the landing of your entirety, your estate. Mom's preparing it. What's happening is her uterine wall is changing to accommodate your existence, and what is created is known as an accretion. That accretion then allows you to plant into the wall of the uterus without being rejected as a parasite, even though it might be literally a parasite within mom's organism. You're not going to get rejected in most cases. Well, that accretion, here's the question. Your biology is a product of divinity, the vine of dad and the vine of mom. That divinity is now planting in as a product of dad, a biological father, and mom. Well, the accretion. Did your dad, have anything to do with the creation of that uterine wall accretion, or did mom alone create it? Was there any sex involved, or was that creation separate from
The
mom and dad?
Immaculate Conception.
Yes, it's the Immaculate Conception. It had no male creator it didn't come from a man. So you have this Virgin Mary conception, this Virgin Mary accretion that is now accepting your biology. So when you implant into that uterine wall, into that accretion, you're planting into virgin ground, literally created by mom only for you. Now, my book is called Right of Way for this very reason. You have a right of way in nature to land in mom's soil, a right of way. And of course, you can just look up right of way and all the legal connections to right of way. But you already have it within nature, a right of way. Doesn't require a middleman, doesn't require a piece of paper, doesn't require permission. It's already occurred. Now, I believe that the right of way is evidenced by the zygote's original skin, which is the pellucid membrane, which is also from mom. I believe that that's almost like a note saying, yeah, you have a right to plant into the wall of the uterus, because that pellucid membrane is shed moments before you actually implant. And think about that also, that pellucid membrane that surrounds this zygote, as they actually call it the baby's skin and or first skin, or think of it as the package wrapping. But I think of it as an envelope enveloping the baby, your entirety, or your estate. And of course, I believe the UPU, the Universal Postal Union, is using that skin or the evidence of that pellucid membrane to pretend that mom or that envelope is still in use to through the postal system. But that's for another call. What I'm getting at is, when mom is preparing this ground, she's preparing it specifically for you, and she didn't have it before you existed, and she won't have it after you exist. It is only for that that creation or for that landing. Now, what's interesting about this immaculately conceived accretion is that when baby comes out, connected to the umbilical cord, connected to the rest, residue, and remainder of baby's biology, which is connected to this accretion. When they clamp and cut the cord, baby is in the present moment in view of those at the hospital or the midwife or whoever, but the rest, residue, and remainder of baby and the maternal part of the placenta are still in the womb or the waters of mother. They didn't come out into the present yet. They're still back there and come out after birth, as afterbirth. The second coming. It's the second coming, literally the second coming. And of course, that's what gets the birth record. That material gets the birth record. Or gives rise, I should say, it gives rise to the birth record. Here's what's interesting. So baby comes out as a product of mom and dad and fertilization, because my blood is divine. My blood as baby has both evidence of mom and dad, and I don't have any of the maternal accretion attached to me. But when they clamp and cut the cord and they separate that material from me, creating a false duality, now when that placenta comes out, it evidences the fetal-maternal bundle of rights, which gives rise to the social contract. That piece of mom that is attached to me through the placenta is the problem. And they're looking at that fetal-maternal placenta as neither baby nor mom. They're actually looking at that fetal-maternal organ as if it's something new, something different from both me and mom. And that's called a tertium quid. TERTIUM space QUID. The tertium quid is a new third party, third person, third thing that is neither baby nor mom. And that measure, that material is what's being used against all of us in the world as what makes us whole and brings peace to the world. Now, I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to shut the hell up and we can talk. The problem with that fetal maternal organ, if viewed as something other than mom or baby, is that if it's viewed as a tertium quid, a composition of matter, in the United States, compositions of matter can be patented. And they did patent that placenta, by the way. The problem is that nature is not patentable. So my biology in its entirety by itself cannot be patented. My mom's biology in and of itself cannot be patented. But if the placenta is viewed as a tertium quid or something neither mom nor myself, that composition of material can be patented in the US at 35 USC 101. So they're making it possible to patent what shouldn't be patentable by using this combination, this bundle of rights. So they got a patented bundle of rights, which is the social contract on a global scale, and they're holding all of us to that social contract through the afterbirth second coming, better known as Jesus and Mary. So believe me, the entire global economy is built. It's ecumenical. It's an ecumenical economy on a global scale through this Jesus and Mary deposit into the In God We Trust, Sedeke Vi Trust. That's the whole game. And all you have to do is know what is yours and what is not yours to separate yourself. And that's where John 8:32 kicks in, where you say, listen, the truth sets me free. It sets me free of the social contract because my biology is never to be mixed with that of another. That's my private godly estate. Thank you very much. Woo! Sorry.
So when we're there, can we talk about the tax aspect of this then in practical terminology, where we go to when the baby then has been docked and then that docked has been recorded and then it becomes now a taxable commodity, and how then through the taxing system, because we're due to debt, we're the ones the not us, the afterbirth, the recorded delivery, is the taxable commodity. So it's talking about the tax aspect of that. So where the comptroller comes in to control of the cemetery, who has have you ledgered on the on the grave as being dead. So where does that come into play in all of this? If you could explain that in more detail for people. And also, sorry, I know you have the USC statutes. We have the 1999 Consolidation Stamp Tax Duties Act. That's the one we would be under here in this country. So it's quite a little different process. I kind of find it quite fascinating when I'm reading it. It talks about the hawk, and that's what I see these people are, as they're hawks. They're trying to put a stamp on you there too. They're hawking around you, putting a stamp on you, and it brought up that terminology in the Consolidation Act 1999. It also talks about a die being an impression or a mark, and anything of all of this is spelled DIE. So it's quite a fascinating document to read, and especially now with your knowledge combined with that is creating a great story, great image for me, and really getting it. And so, in relation to how they created grand larceny when they sold the package, when they sold our biological DNA. That is the first crime and offence that took place, because they created grand larceny. So by them, even in my logical thinking, by them even putting a stamp on me is proof and evidence that you must have separated me. So that's evidence that you're criminal in grand larceny and selling my DNA. So in relation to that, I suppose it's the law surrounding when in taxable in the tax system, when the cargo and the package come intact, it's not a taxable commodity. So that's the one I'm kind of getting at here for you to explain that, if you would me.
Um, there's like five things in there that I need to address before my brain can't remember it. Number one, the United States, Delaware is where all the corporations of the world are now registered. So we're dealing with still United States code via the corporate aspect for basically what we perceive to be countries. They're not, they're corporations now. And it's still all through the United States. So, or through Delaware. So when you trace it back far enough, it'll always go through Delaware.
All under the same districts anyway. That Pauline here had a case there where as an American citizen got done over driving her car because she was an Irish citizen. And anyway, she never got the opportunity, but said, sure, why don't you ask them what's the difference between an Irish citizen and an American citizen? As far as I'm aware, they're under the same district.
They are, and that district it's all Rome. By the way, there's only one city, and that city is Rome. So when people understand that the idea of civil, the Gregorian calendar birth certificated character is a civil rights or civil character.
But did their boss not fire them in 2013 then under the motu proprio?
Say that again?
Do you know the motu proprio 2013?
Oh, yeah. And what I'm getting at is when you understand the machination or the mechanics, when you know what's going on, now it doesn't matter where you find these rulings in, whether it's U.S. statute or whatever. If you know what gives rise to that, you can actually deal with this at the living man or woman level.
And that's what I do know, and that's why I'm searching through our own statutes here to get that, to give rise to the same level. It's what I don't know the terminology that you use. I can't remember it. Is where the cargo and the package are delivered together intact. That's the you if you could give
original
me that
package. Original package.
Original.
But that's actually a 1927 U.S. a court case called Brown versus Maryland. Interesting enough, Brown as in colorable and Maryland as in Mary's land or the accretion. But all of this stuff, once you understand the truth of the matter, then you can see where it is or what they've done in your own country to capture this this cut material or this bundle of rights, or place this bundle of rights within their jurisdiction. What's interesting about, I mean, your eyes and your mind right now is you saw the word die, D-I-E, and the die is cast. I mean, this is a die cast. When you look at in Rome and you find in Vatican City the dicastery, all of this shit is right in our face. But as long as we want to be God's children instead of men of God, as long as we want to be treated as children through this Gregorian calendar character, we will be. It's time to grow up, literally grow up, and let go of, you know, childish things. Again, these are all biblical quotes. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I blah, blah, blah. You know what? It's time to get rid of these childish things, which is the cut material, which is the beneficiary to their system as orphans, you know, left behind
I
orphans or
wanted
what
to
have
bring
you.
it back there as well to the infant now we're going
No, we do
forward.
that. We do that. We do that every 365 days. We make that pilgrimage back to infancy. They call it a birthday, and we're more than happy to celebrate our infancy. You know, so that's another thing for the men to really think about. If I'm 63 years old biologically or more, but I keep celebrating infancy, legally incapacitating myself every 365 days, requiring administrative process, I'm doing it to myself. They're doing nothing. We're the only ones culpable or guilty of any of this shit, and they're laughing at us because we keep asking permission to escape it. Oh, Kurt, how do I get out of the matrix? Actually, you're not in it. You haven't been in it since you were in the womb. But as long as you keep claiming infancy, that birthday, to making that pilgrimage back to that bullshit position, you're going to be legally incapacitated forever. I mean,
On the
forever.
hamster wheel.
This is the best part. There are no men in the world, anywhere in the world, where the Gregorian calendar birth certificated character exists. Because if I keep claiming at 63 that legal infancy, then I can't be viewed as a man. So again, all of the men have disappeared from this realm because all these morons keep claiming a birthday. So they're all infants, mother and child infants, that are subject to mother, i.e., Rome, the mother church. But that's the problem. Is it's our own admission. We're doing this shit to ourselves. We're nobody else. We cannot blame anybody, because when we learn the word fee, F-E-E, as in fee, fi, fo, fum, but as in fee, and you look in Black's Law and you look up fee, you go, oh my God, the word fee means feud, F-E-U-D. And then you look at feud and you go, well, who's at war here? Where's the feud? The Hatfields and the McCoys? Is that the problem? Well, what's a hat? A hat is a persona that you wear when you're out in public or whatever. So there's a Hatfield. And then, of course, the real McCoy, the McCoys, are the living man. So you got the feud between the living man, the McCoys, and the Hatfields, where all these people are playing persona. They're personified. So the Hatfield and McCoy feud is our own belief in this Gregorian calendar birth certificated bullshit. Now, what's interesting about this is it all goes away. It goes away once we wake up to the fact that their Harry Potter fucking birth certificated creation, we don't need to put on its clothes anymore. We don't need to cover ourselves with that fig leaf. We're done. We need to understand that we've been whole from the beginning, and their nonsense. By the way, let me explain how quickly this goes away when we start using terms that they're afraid of. The cutting of the umbilical cord is an act of mayhem. It's mayhem. Simple as that. It's a violent act against an innocent newborn. It's mayhem. The taking away of your biology, the removal of your biology, is larceny. Just taking it away is larceny. I don't even know who's involved. It doesn't matter who's involved. The fact that somebody is using this birth certificated character based upon mayhem, based upon larceny, is enough for me. By the way, when that material gets taken away from you, separated from the breath of God, which you're breathing today, when it doesn't have the breath of God in it, it dies. And if it's an act of mayhem and larceny that produces that, it's genocide. So the birth certificated character itself evidences these three elements. It evidences mayhem, it evidences larceny, and it evidences genocide. So anybody that's willing to play in that realm is already admitting to those three things. Now, the thing is they're not doing it to us. We do it to ourselves. But they're accepting it and saying, well, this guy wants the benefits of this trust,
And as long as he's willing to be the beneficiary, we're more than happy to administrate that decedent estate in his stead. I mean, while he's missing presumed dead. By the way, why are you missing presumed dead? Because of the birth certificate? It's because the first 6 days in the womb, you're lost at sea. So again, once you know your godly origins, fertilization, the whole damn thing collapses around them. And now the banks, the international banks, the International Monetary Fund, all of these fucked up banks that are using this aborted fetal tissue as a security issue. All of them guys have nothing to actually pull you in as surety. And if they don't have sureties, it's all fraud. That's what, by the way, that's what happened in March of 2020 when Trump, who is the president overseeing all this shit in the US, when he received my third letter, which evidenced all of this. Within 1 week of the receipt of that letter, COVID became a thing worldwide. He basically stopped the ecumenical economy right there and then. They closed up shop because the ecumenical economy, the blood, your blood sacrifice was off the table. If your blood sacrifice is off the table, they don't have any sureties. The entire banking system becomes fraud. So they closed the economy and called it COVID. COVID. What's really weird about COVID is that if you go to HHS, Health and Human Services here in the US, you'll realize that COV is a covered entity, covered as an insured. And when you go and read a little bit of Freud and read id, ego, and superego, you'll realize that the id is that infant material that they cut off of you. So covered is insured, id is infant. The covered infant, COVID, is actually that insured character that they cut off of you and put on deposit. So I mean, they created COVID. Actually, maybe I did, but they actually called it COVID. They called it a dis-ease. But wait a minute here. When you're whole, does such a COVID dis-ease apply to you? Or do you have foreign sovereign immunity to such COVID diseases? The answer is, from fertilization to this moment, you have full sovereign immunity from COVID.
Also, sorry, COVID as well. If you look up Strong's Concordance, C equals 3, which is Abaddon, which is the angel of the abyss. Ovid is sheep, and 19 is Ibka, which is slaughter. Sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Well, thank you for that, because yes, absolutely. The sheep, the lamb, but the lamb, by the way, if you go and look up the Greek word for lamb is amnion. So the sheep that's being slaughtered or placed on deposit as the blood sacrifice, the Lamb of God is the amnion itself. And yes, 100%, everything you will find that everything I say matches up to everything mythologically, everything numerologically. It all matches. It doesn't explain it. I mean, in fact, it explains everything. Absolutely everything. Uh-oh, I lose you guys?
No, you're there. No, yeah. So going back to the tax, how that works with the tax. So let's say then.
Wait. Are you in front of your computer?
Yes.
Go to the term, or just look up excise tax. Excise tax, and tell me what it says.
I knew be a better man for this now.
I just have my phone, so.
That's all right, Brian.
Or just look up excise. Look up excise.
Yeah, no, I get it here. Excise.
And then it'll lead you to the word excision, and then look up excision. I'm just saying that the excise tax is based upon an excision, and when you realize what an excision is, you'll realize what the tax is. The tax is the blood of Christ. The tax is that blood sacrifice. That's the excise tax. That's what they're using for the tax to enter their once upon a time fiction. That's the cost of playing. The cost of playing is your life in the present, because you can't be here and in the fiction at the same time. So your present, your I amness is on deposit while you play the game.
And it's funny that you should say that as well. I was in a church in Galway there, a cathedral, last year with friends of mine, and there was a bottle, and it was a beautiful shaped bottle, and there was this beautiful yellow secretion in it, and it was an ornamented into the wall.
Wait, into the wall, like
embedded,
like indented into the wall.
Well, no, they like it was placed into like a glass cabinet, like it was a showcase of
Right, but it's into the wall. And think about this. People don't
yeah,
understand that
The
in
wall,
the wall is in the wall. And when
like
somebody
you're
says,
just
well, yeah, you got to start looking at everything differently,
yeah,
because
yeah,
they put a bottle, a container, like a message in a bottle. They actually put this shit into the wall. And what's funny is when people say, well, I finally found my niche, my niche. Well, that's what a niche is. A niche is actually that little impression into a wall where you place things of value. So your niche is the impression into the wall of the uterus. So they're actually venerating this piece of you, this piece that was left behind, that impressed mother. That's your fetal biology impressing mother. That's your niche. And of course, it has a title. And now you recognize the concept of niche marketing or niche marketing. You're marketing the very thing, the title. That's what you're selling. That's what selling your soul is all about. You're selling that piece of you, allowing that piece of you on the marketplace. And that's how it works. The whole damn thing works based upon your admission to this character, this blood sacrifice in an ecumenical economy.
Proverbs 11:15. He who strangers for or surety for a stranger shall smart for it.
You're gonna
so
find all the Bible verses that match up to this shit, like exactly.
so
They were
Kurt,
sure they
see
created it.
see on that there on the birth certificate, then it's getting rid of that there, because that's the entrapment. That's the whole loop, basically. What is the
Yeah,
process?
it
What is the
is.
process of uh getting rid of that, and no delinking it, or discharging it, or what? Could you talk about that, or along that
Yeah,
line?
you got to be careful, because understand that the piece they cut off of you has never been discharged from its service, from its hospital. So that piece of you is a patient forever, subject to public health. In fact, the piece they cut off of you gets put into the public pool, and it's a public health issue. It's diseased because it has the parasite mom's biology attached to it. So it's both parasitic in and of itself, and it needs to be held under quarantine, which it is, by the way. That afterbirth material has been in quarantine since its beginning. So when COVID hit and they started talking about quarantine and forcing people to put on veils over their face to express the very thing, they're talking about the corporate veil. So everybody that put a mask on their face basically were wearing the corporate veil.
Yeah.
It's all or nothing. Maybe that's the message of this call today, is that you can't play at all. You can't even acknowledge their world or their system without being subject to it. And this is the best way to say this, is wholeness, WHOLE, to be whole. Remember, truth cannot be reduced. It can't be reduced. So when you recognize the zygote as your origin, it can't be reduced. It can't be cut apart. It can't be separated. So when they clamp and cut the cord, they actually cut a piece of you off. And what people don't realize is that the truth is whole. Now, this is a really fun way to look at the concept of truth, is that if I take any piece of the truth out, it's a lie by omission. I'm actually omitting something that would complete it, which would make it truth. So anything less than all is a lie by omission, and any piece that is less than the whole, that one piece is known as a detail. It's a detail of, or a piece of the whole, and that detail is, and that's by definition what a detail is. It's a detail of the whole. Who lives in the details?
The devil.
The devil lives in the details. So when people don't recognize fertilization to last breath as one entire lifetime, they are introducing a detail, i.e., the devil, into their position. It's a
Yeah.
really simple thing. From fertilization to last breath is a continuous and contiguous biology, meaning evolutionary. First, there's creation, i.e., the intelligent design of an ark that not only allows you to live in the waters of mother for the, let's say, the first 280 days, it also, the same exact biology allows you to live on the land and breathe air on your own. But it can't be cut apart. It's land, air, and water as a single law. Hey, it even spells law. Land, air, and water spells law. And remember that your origin is in the waters of mother, but then you come out of the waters of mother using the exact same biology from creation. So you have the intelligent design of the zygote, the Ark of the Covenant with God, but then it evolves, i.e., continuous and contiguous, meaning it's unbroken, continuous, and it's contiguous because it's all the same biology. It doesn't mix with any other. So, continuous and contiguous evolutionary process to this moment as we speak, it's one life. And what they've done is they've got us to admit that there was in the womb unborn and then out here born. And then when they clamp and cut the cord, they create a little space between those two positions that needs to be bridged with their administrative process. And that space is interstate. It's between those two states of the unborn and born. So now you have an interstate space that allows them interstate commerce or the bar association to work to bridge that gap between the best way to say it is the nowhere to now here, when in reality it's always now here if you know WHOLE. So again, when they clamp and cut the cord, they create a false duality of nowhere and now here, and they say that they're able to bridge the gap between your presence here now, and his story or history back then. And if you understand also that the past and the present are mutually exclusive, they cannot exist at any moment at the same time. So then you realize if I've been fully present from fertilization to this moment, there is no history. They can't freeze me in time and say you were back there, because I've never been back there. I've always been here now. And this is not semantics. This is reality.
So, Kurt, the etymology of this whole situation is what they need to be told. And when you tell them out there, you're in your standing. Is that what you're saying, Anthony?
All I do, when people ask me, how do you get where you're going? You just keep telling the truth or being the brightest light. I don't make any claims. I just keep telling the truth. I don't care what they do with it. I can't do anything about their responses or actions. In fact, I very rarely even suggest anything to them. I just keep writing at a level where they can't deny the truth. That's all I do. People say, well, how do you get your rights back? I've never not had them. Well, how do you get your estate back? I've never been without it. What happens is when we play the game at any level, we lose because the game itself evidences the decedent's estate.
Yeah, it's rigged them and rigged in that department. Yeah.
Right. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Well, that's not true when all you do is shine a light on truth. In fact, let's put it this way. I know this is a lot of stuff for one call, but I think
No,
you
it's
guys
not.
can handle you guys can handle it. Look at this. So
Yeah.
baby comes out of the womb, fully present in view of everybody. Witnesses, even witness whatever. The problem is there's an umbilical cord that straddles the world of the born now, where baby's located, and the world of the unborn, which is where the residue, and the remainder of baby's godly estate is located. On the other side, still in the waters of mother. When they clamp and cut the cord, they create a duality of baby in the present, but then this other material not in the present. So when that other material comes out, it gets frozen in time on a Gregorian calendar. Now there is a past back there, frozen in time, and there's me as baby in the present. They create that false duality because they need that timestamp or that calendar character, because they rule over the past. They have his story that they rule over, whereas my story, mystery, is fully present.
No.
And
Yeah.
they use those terms, by the way. Yeah, they use those terms.
Yeah.
Could you possibly go into Pope Boniface 1302 and in 28, was it October when this came about?
Well, Unum Sanctum is only talking, I mean, Rome only has a claim upon the human creature, which is the afterbirth, the Jesus and Mary afterbirth in their story, their Catholic story, or Christian story, I could say, because Christ is a Christian story. The problem is I don't recognize any of that because it's all a story. It's all a narrative. Go to Webster's online right now, look up the word Genesis. You got the small lowercase g, which is a beautiful G, by the way. It actually looks like the baby, the umbilical, and the extra embryonic laying on the ground. It looks like one thing, Genesis, lowercase g, is reality and substance, whereas the capital G Genesis is a narrative, a Jewish canonical or Christian narrative. Narratives are stories. So again, when I use the word Genesis, which is the beginning of me, it's a lowercase g. When they use their story, their narrative, their Gregorian calendar based narrative, that's a capital G Genesis. I don't want any part of that. I don't want any part of their story, because if the author of their story has a piece of me in his story, then that's the public. By the way, Rome is the public still to this day. Rome is the public, and Unum Sanctum identifies the material that places you in the public with your own birth certificated claim. So again, the human creature, the fetal maternal placenta, that corporate shell, the offshore shell corporation, that corporate shell is in the story, in his story, whereas the whole man is outside of all of it, immune from all of it with such knowledge.
Just when you say shell there, it's very interesting that you say that, because when I was looking up what the word dye is, plate and impression and all of this, a plate was a shell. It was like a crocodile skin, or the zygomatic plate was the jawbones. And it was the exoskeletal system, the hard covering of that was the shell, and that's what they're talking about in relation to the dye is the plate.
And who used the jawbone in the Bible? Didn't Cain walk around with a jawbone to kill people? Cain and Abel?
Samson.
Oh yeah.
Why is a jawbone even part of that definition?
Yeah.
Well, that's what they did, is they created a Cain and Abel, obviously. I mean, if you go biblically, you can see all of the different stories inside the biology. In fact, I believe in the womb is Old Testament, which is where the Jews will claim. I believe outside the womb is the New Testament. And by clamping and cutting the cord, you separate the entirety of the Old and New Testament as one story, so to speak. By the way, again, if you go online and look up the word white in the Bible would refer to the entirety of the story, which would be Old and New Testament as one story. That would be the color white. So again, the white man, if you want to think about that, I'm not talking about melanated skin at this point. The white man, or white itself, represents all the time in the womb and the time out of the womb as one life. The white man is the living man. The person of color is the decedent estate.
Also, when he performed the first miracle on the wedding day, he looked at his mum, and his mum knew the time he was born, and that was when he turned the water to wine. I looked up gematria for wine, and it adds up to 51. And in Jewish gematria, there's an equivalent of civil marriage, and the simple English gematria is Adam, Eve. And 5 + 1 is 6, which is the 6th day of creation when man was created. So the first miracle was very, very significant about the birth of his time of birth, and turning the water to wine. And we drink the wine as the blood. His blood.
You drink the wine as an alchemical concept.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of court cases out there where, in fact, Eads versus Brazelton in the 1850s was an interesting case, because they're talking about a steamship sinking in a river, and that steamship was actually called America, and in America was all this lead, and so there was an admiralty claim where somebody found America underwater with all this lead. And of course, alchemically, somebody can turn lead into gold. What people don't understand is the afterbirth tied to the living being's energy is actually taking what is looked at as waste material, i.e. lead, and turning it into gold through the banking system as a surety to their claims. So all this alchemical stuff, even the wedding, you used the word civil.
Understand the gematria. I saw Jewish. I was looking up the gematria for wine, and I was just scrolling through the Jewish, and it said civil marriage as an equivalent to wine.
Right, and the civil marriage, just an FYI, is my biology being civilly married through a Gregorian calendar, because the Gregorian calendar is the civil calendar. By me claiming the birth, the civil calendar birth, my biology is bonded to Mary, i.e., the handmaiden, the wall of the uterus. So I am now married to Mary through the civil calendar, which is the accretion. Mary's the accretion. As long as I claim the birth certificated character, my biology is bonded to that accretion, which is this civil marriage.
Right. Yes.
It's a
Making so much
beautiful,
sense.
by the way, it's beautiful. These guys are absolutely unbelievable. But the truth, John 8:32, and again, I'm not a religious guy, but I'm becoming one. No, that's a joke. I love what's going on. I think the world is waking up, but it's waking up from its infancy. And we're going to be held accountable, literally accountable, as far as being responsible for our own lives. No beneficiary status, nobody taking care, no charity, no welfare states, no nothing. A lot of people won't like this, but remember that nature doesn't have any welfare state. When I look out my window and I see a squirrel burying nuts and then digging them back up, I mean, he's not waiting for a check, each month to supply him with the nuts. We have become weak. We've become entitled to other people's other people's energy. By the way, let me say something about Adam, because this is fun. The splitting of the atom, people think of it as nuclear energy, and it is. But if you look at the creation of Adam, who was it? Who was the Italian artist with the creation of Adam? Michelangelo. Michelangelo's creation of Adam, where you notice the two fingers that are separated. What you're looking at in Michelangelo's creation of Adam is the splitting of the atom. In other words, when they clamp and cut my umbilical cord, they're splitting the ATOM atom. Also, they're splitting the ADAM atom. In other words, Adam, being the zygote, is now split off from me, the man, or on the land. And by splitting or separating those two positions, they release my energy. In other words, if I put my mind into their birth certificated character, all of my energy is captured through their character. They split the energy. They split the atom with the cutting of the umbilical cord, and then I put all my energy into their character, and that's nuclear energy. So we, by believing or allowing the cut, have released all our energy for capture through their birth certificated civil calendar character, and now they have access to our energy through our own false admissions or claims to the birth certificated character.
So we need to all stop just celebrating our birthdays, basically.
No, you just need to know the truth all the way to fertilization.
Yeah, sure.
I don't have a birthday. I mean, I don't have to stop celebrating something that doesn't even apply to me.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist in reality. Let's put it that way.
No, because we're not born every year. We were just.
By the way, and the other word is birth, and I think people they get confused about this. There is no birth when you're living from fertilization to last breath. There's no such thing as a birth. BER or BIR, it doesn't matter which. I don't have a birth. And so the birthday or birth certificate doesn't apply to the living or the foreign sovereign, because I don't have one. So, and the word birth doesn't apply to fertilization. So people need to stop using the word birth altogether.
Curtis, I'll give you a good one. When they arrested me inside my hall and put the cuffs on me in front of my child over a speeding offence and brought me up to Mountjoy Dorcas Women's Prison, they asked me for my date of birth, and I says, sure, I don't have any first-hand knowledge of that event. I don't know. And your one said, she looked at the card and she goes, is she all right? Does she need help or anything? And I said, but sure, don't. Do you know yours? Do you know when your mother and father lay down? I don't. Do you? So anyway, through the jigs and reels of it, I gave her, well, I can give you a date. It was registered. So my date of birth would be the 5th, say, well, the date it was born, or not born, conceived, let's say, or not even conceived. And then the date of the registration was the 20th of January. So right now on their form for that, they told me I have to go back in to file another future security in me. So I have to be, they said I didn't show it up the last time. I wasn't going to be the subject matter, so I didn't show for their case. I did send all the documents again, proving that I had relinquished the documents they were seeking as per the instructions of the Attorney General. I already relinquished those documents, so they're trying to enforce a contract right now that I don't even have, and they're using the legal fiction name with the registered date of birth, even not even my own.
Well, be careful, because by using the word "my," you're making a claim.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to get that out of your vernacular. You need to stop saying "my this" and "my that,"
Well,
because
you see, the bank, I went about this a little bit backwards, right? And I even have a letter to the bank that they offered their condolences on the passing of the late Sandra Giltrap. So really, the fictional. Yeah, so really the fictional Sandra Giltrap is dead. So they don't even have a mode of transport on the public side to a special purpose vehicle to stifle funds even. So I don't know what they're playing at.
well, it's funny because if you're always here, you don't need to go anywhere. Think about that. If I get up out of this off this couch and I walk to the other side of the room, or out the front door, or down the block, where am I? I'm here. I never need to travel from here to there because I'm always here. I mean, even from point A to point B, it's all here. All present and accounted for is always only here. So I can't go there. In fact, I can't go there. I can't be yesterday and I can't be tomorrow, because presence is only right here.
No,
So, I mean, if
no.
you say it's kind of, I know it sounds like semantics, but it's not. If somebody says, well, can you pay me tomorrow for this? And you go, yeah, I guess I can, but I'll never get there, because when I do show up, it'll be today. So tomorrow never comes for those that understand reality. And yesterday doesn't exist, because yesterday is part of my entirety. This is probably an important concept I should cover. But from fertilization to this moment, there is no past. In other words, if I buy a car today and I drive it home, it's my car today. But once midnight passes and I wake up tomorrow, it's today for me. But now the car on paper is in yesterday. I lose my property rights to the car once it goes into his story, history. They're administrating history. If I allow that car to go into his story or history by being tomorrow, or yesterday, I should say, on a calendar, I lose the property rights to it because it goes into the trust called history. If I'm living from fertilization to this moment, and everything I do all the time is still present, it never goes into yesterday or into the history trust. They're using words, and they're using our inability to grasp reality in the present, which is where life exists. They're getting us to agree to a death that never occurs until last breath. They can only judge us if we're not living. Remember, even Unum Sanctum says that the human creature is subject to Rome, but the spiritual man is to be judged by no one. Spiritual means nothing more than breathing. The breathing man, 1 Corinthians 2:15, King James Version, is not to be judged by another man. So as long as you're breathing in the present, there's no judgment. They're using our belief in a past to hold our property in a past that doesn't exist for the living spiritual man. If we get the idea of a spiritual man being judged by no man, our shit is always in our possession. We own it until we die. There is no trust. Anybody that's working through a trust has bought into the lie. There are no trusts for living men. We deal with things in a present fashion. We don't let them go into yesterday, some fictional yesterday. There is no yesterday for the living. So when you get this all the way down, you'll realize that everything they're doing falls apart, knowing that I, for one, am all present and accounted for from fertilization to last breath. In fact, by living always, none of my property that I buy today ever goes into any yesterday civil calendar existence. That's how they're capturing our property. Too many people say, "Oh, we don't own anything. but we put it in trust so we can control it. They're all morons. Either you own it or you don't. It's as simple as that. So anybody that wants to put their shit in a trust, good luck with that, because the trust property, the trust name is going to be the birth certificated character. There's no way around it. Either I am here or I am not here. It's either or. Truth is all or nothing. You get nothing or you own it all. The paper is only a representative of what you think you have in the present. That's why biblically, the eye of the needle, to get into heaven, they're saying you have to let go of everything. I agree with that. If I let go of what I believe I own on paper, if I just say, okay, I'm going to go and believe in reality or not, I'm going to experience reality. I'm just going to go all the way back to truth and leave all this shit on paper behind. Guess what you find on the other side? On the other side, you're the owner. There is no paper representation or representative. And one last thing I'll say about this bullshit that's going on. I'm not in the image of God. When I stand before the mirror, breathing with the breath of God in me, that's genuine. I am of God standing before the mirror. The image in the mirror, those people that want to claim the image of God, good luck with that shit, because the image of God, G-O-D, is D-O-G, dog. So when you want to play that game, you're the dog. When you want to claim the image of God and you're letting go of the very breath itself that gives you life, good luck with that. I mean, this shit is almost too easy. And when I start listening to all these people's belief systems, I cringe because it's too easy.
Well, his name's Yotevafe, isn't it? Which
Whose
means
name? Whose name?
the creator.
I don't know. I don't know of that. That would be hearsay to me. So what I'm getting at, I don't care about anybody's beliefs because nobody can prove anything to me. If you believe that, that's great. I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything because my existence, I don't want any of that history shit. I don't want anybody's belief systems. I can go visit the pyramids and knock my head against them. I can whatever, but that's all his story. It's not mine.
Right.
By the way, they even call them the Eucharist, which is my own biology, mystery. The mystery is the Eucharist, and that's my own biology. You look, I mean, my story, mystery, began at fertilization. When they clamp and cut the cord, they take my Eucharistic, my zygotic cell, which is also known as a eukaryotic cell. They take my own biology and they call it the fucking Eucharist. It is really this easy. We complicate it. Even having me talk, it sounds complicated, but it isn't. I make it sound complicated so you guys want to talk to me. I'm joking. I'm joking. I got goosebumps even thinking people want to learn this stuff. I'm not joking. I have them right now. I have goosebumps thinking people finally want to learn the truth.
Yeah.
We more than want to learn it. I'm getting out of her belly. This is going to happen for me this week. They have, I am out of her belly, but they're going to know I'm out of their belly. They said
You guys, hasn't Ireland been all fucked up with the Catholics and the Protestants?
more defragmented their minds.
The Catholics and the Protestants. You realize we have that here too, right? The United States is Protestant, and the Americas are Catholic. So the bond between the United States and the Americas is the placenta. That's the bondage. The only way it works to be the United States of America. So you have the United States Protestants, and the Americas, i.e. Roman Catholics. When the only way to put those two together is through the bond of the fetal-maternal Jesus and Mary fucking placenta.
Yeah.
The Immaculate. By the way, in the 1850s, they even said that Mary, the Virgin Mary, the Immaculate Conception of Mary, became the patroness of the Americas. Patron. They took all the energy through people's belief systems and all the waste material, i.e. afterbirth, the lead, and they turned it into gold for themselves through the civil calendar, the Civil War.
Go ahead,
the 14th
Courtney.
Amendment citizenship, the franchise.
Courtney, go ahead. Ask a question there, Courtney.
What's
Kurt,
that?
I've loved your work, Kurt. I first heard it 18 months ago from an excellent fella in Wales. I think they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So a brilliant explanation today, and thanks to the team for bringing it together. I've got a question. Should the umbilical cord just be left to wither and die? Please explain that issue rather than cutting or clamping. I know many natural birth mums. Please take me through that. I don't understand.
Okay, first I'm gonna right off the bat, because you said it, wither and die. It doesn't die. What I mean by that, yeah, it may wither, but remember, it's all within the baby. The medical definition of delivery is a fetus and its membranes. Go to Webster's, go down to medical, it says fetus and its membranes as one unit. When they clamp and cut the cord, they create the false duality, and then that's an act of mayhem, the cutting. The taking away or the removal is the larceny, and the letting it die separate from you is the genocide. Now, if you allow all that material to come out into the present, remember, it gets frozen in time. It literally gets frozen in time on a Gregorian calendar system. What's really funny is the Freemasons. I mean, they always talk about the 33rd degree. Well, what happens to water? What happens to frozen things at the 33rd degree? Oh, I'm sorry. You guys are metric. You don't understand what the 33rd degree is. The 33rd degree here through our system
Fahrenheit.
Is that steam? When it turns to steam?
It's the thawing.
Oh, the
Frozen
thawing.
things are no longer frozen at the 33rd degree. So the idea of the 33rd degree is actually the thawing or the movement again of what was once frozen. So the 33rd degree in the Freemasonry is you coming off of that frozen fucking calendar. It's frozen in time. So, but that's not what I was getting at. That was just a side note. Sorry. The answer to your question is that if your godly estate would have been delivered fetus and its membranes, in other words, the baby, the umbilical, and all of baby's extra embryonic material, had it all come out of mom into the present, there would be no past. There would be no past because you would be fully present. Now, if you allow the placenta to be drawn up into the supreme being as all one in the present moment, no past. Remember, baby is now breathing the breath of God for himself. His entire estate now. Remember, mom was breathing for baby underwater, but it's still the breath of God. So through mom, you required mom to breathe for you, which is why they put a fucking mask on everybody in COVID, because that was evidencing you being God damned, meaning the breath of God was damned from you or had been withheld from you. Everybody wearing a mask during COVID was evidencing death on their face with the corporate veil. Anyway, the idea is that if all of you, if the entire godly estate would have been delivered into the present moment, then the godly estate would be here, supreme being right here now. When you let all of that material, which is already your biology, the umbilical cord's attached at the navel, the Navy, the navel. When you allow all that material and all that energy to come into baby over the next few days, and you guys know better than me about the time of this, well, what happens is, does that material die, or is it still all part of the supreme being, a living supreme being in the present moment? Does it? I mean, if I lose a finger in an accident right now, I'm still breathing. I'm still whole. I might be missing a finger, but fuck that. I'm still whole. I'm still in entirety. Even though it looks like I'm defective, I'm not. I know my beginning was at fertilization. I know I lost a finger, but it doesn't make me less than whole. That's the same thing with the umbilical cord. When they clamp and cut the cord, they're acting like it's separate from you, and it dies. And it does die because of the cut. But when you let it all go into the baby in the present moment, it never dies because it's all one. People don't understand this shit. Well, doesn't it die on your... no, it never dies. It just gets drawn into the baby as one living supreme being. It doesn't die. It's like a fingernail that you cut. Did you die? Does anything die when you cut a fingernail? No. It's just part of your biology that's now laying over there. When the umbilical cord and all that material draws into the baby, there's no death at all. That's why what they have is in their system, Jesus comes back to save people. Well, who's Jesus? You are. When you go into a courtroom, who's salvaging whom? You're going in there to give life back to that fucking piece that they cut off of you because you're living now. You're the one saving yourself in that courtroom because they have a decedent version of you and you come in breathing the breath of God to save yourself. The rest of the material that's on deposit, you're saving you. They got us so bent up over this religious bullshit. I mean, we're in hell, or better yet, purgatory, because of the cut. We're neither living nor dead. We're neither born nor or unborn. We're stuck in a purgatory between those two positions. We're interstate commerce.
Yeah.
Quick final question. Did you say?
So wait a minute. Wait. So
Yep.
what I want you to be clear. There's no death for the entirety.
Of course.
There's no death for the entirety because it's all one. If it's delivered as one. By the way, again, the medical definition of delivery is a fetus and its membranes. That means none of us have ever been delivered because they cut the cord. There is no delivery. You know how they deliver us? They deliver us through their representative birth certificated character through the mail. Now we're back to the UPU. Now we're back to what their belief. The pellucid membrane envelope, that enveloped or enveloped the zygote just prior to implantation. They're delivering us through remember even the cartoon stork that's delivering the bundle. Yeah. Remember I talked about a bundle of rights. The bundle of joy is the bundle of rights, the fetal-maternal placenta. So they're bundling us together with the accretion, the maternal part of the placenta, so that they can say we're part of the public. I am a private man by myself within my own biology, but when they bundle me together with the mother church or Rome, I now have a bundle of rights, and now I'm subject to the what do they call it? The social contract. I don't want anything to do with that bloodbath.
Quick question, I get it. Grateful for that. Did you say a while ago that it was Korea as a country, if we believe in countries, that recognized the fertilization date? Was that you?
I think that if you start speaking the truth for once, and I don't mean any disrespect,
take it. Good.
If we all woke up and said, you know what, I, for one, am all present and accounted for from fertilization to last breath, every court in the world would recognize that, and all of this salvation. Oh, that's what I was getting at, by the way. The salvage and salvation would end. Because look at, when they clamp and cut the cord, baby comes out. And now baby is on the land, but baby is considered an indigenous person on the land, a savage that requires church salvation. In other words, the savage is the ethnic or the person of color that needs to be saved with Jesus. The material cut off of you still in mother because is the boat or that you came in on, but now it's lost to that island, that strand of land back there, the placenta. That's subject to admiralty law, subject to salvage operations, commercial salvage. So when they clamp and cut the cord, the church has its work with the savage indigenous person on the land. They get to save that indigenous baby, whereas the material cut off of you back there, the derelict boat or vessel or ark, that gets salvaged through admiralty law, either or. So the cut gives the church and state work. If there is no cut, or if you don't recognize the violence of the cut because you're a pacifist, all of a sudden you get in front of the cut. Yeah, I know the cut really happened, but if you just go back to fertilization, this is a form of forgiveness. I know people hate to hear this word, is that when you go back to fertilization as a pacifist, you're basically forgiving everybody for those acts. And by forgiving everybody goes home. Nobody goes to jail. There are no.
Thank you, Kurt. I yield. Excellent.
It's a form of forgiveness to go back to fertilization.
Perfect. Makes perfect sense.
So I'm going to stick with forgiveness.
Yeah,
I'm going to go back in front of the crime. I'm not going to hold anybody to the crime. I'm going to forgive the crime by going back to fertilization and saying, hey, I'm still using this biology. Whatever they attempted to do, it didn't work because I'm still living, I'm still breathing. So if I'm still breathing, fuck that. I'm going to forgive everybody and walk away from all of it.
Because then they can't hold your power when you forgive. There's no power. They can't.
No,
They've no grab hold. They've no nothing. They've no anything.
there's
Totally.
no crime. Even though it did happen, it's a matter of fact. The cutting did happen. The mayhem happened. The larceny happened. The genocide happened. But wait a minute. If I'm still using it and I evolve beyond that infancy, there really is no crime. And if I recognize that it's no crime, and because I understand my godly origins, fertilization and not birthday, guess what? Everybody's forgiven.
Yeah.
Most people
Bang
don't
on.
want to hear that, by the way. They want to punish people.
Exactly, but that's an egocentric sort of modem that
Yeah.
they don't pay. That's a battle with them and within themselves. They have to learn the embodiment of self and how to come into themselves. They just that's a process. It's for each and every one of them. How damaged they are.
I just actually figured out that ultimately it was forgiveness. I mean, in my book or on my book, I have the answer right on the front cover: baby, umbilical, and extra-embryonic as a whole, as the supreme being. Yeah. On the back of the book, it shows the crime itself, the cut, and it shows it. It looks like there's a white chalk line around the body, and inside that was the bloody placenta as the crime itself. But the reality is, if I'm still using it today, if I've evolved beyond infancy, and if I'm no longer holding on to those beliefs, whether it's savage or the salvage operation or Jesus or the birthday, remember, the birthday captured everybody that Jesus didn't. The birthday captured the entire secular world where Jesus captured all the Christians. It's the same shit. It's the same thing. You got the savage on the land needing salvation, and you have the derelict vessel that was left behind in the waters of mother needing salvage. Neither are true. Neither are true, because I'm WHOLE from fertilization to this moment. And at Luke 5:31, again, Jesus' own words, they that are WHOLE whole need not a physician. You don't need to be put back together if there's nothing wrong.
Beautiful.
What do you guys think?
Where can we get your book?
Well,
Well,
if there were enough people, I could ship in bulk from my own house. It is available at Amazon and all that stuff. But I don't know what the shipping. I mean, usually for me to ship overseas or internationally is cost prohibitive. And by the way, the book itself is not really a book that most people would understand, because even though there's a lot of cool shit in there, it's a testimony. It's my testimony. And if people understand that it's the testimony that evidences the right of way, granted, not even granted, in nature, between mom and me. Nobody else gets in between mom and me unless the birthday comes into play. That right of way is exactly what that is. I have a right of way to get out of mom, and think about this. So I'm in the wall of the uterus. Think about all of me still in the wall of the uterus. The water breaks, so to speak. By the way, whose water is that? It's my water. It's my water. I'm immersed in my own water inside my own biology. Now, when that
I'm
water
in the
breaks,
middle of sorry for interrupting you. I'm in the middle of establishing my own office, so I'll talk to you about it after the Zoom call there, to buy in loads of books off you and have them here, so then we can distribute them to people here. So I connect with you on a side note after that.
yeah, we can figure out a way to do that. I know there are ways to actually ship sort of bulk overseas, and it's not cost prohibitive at that point. But I know that for me to ship anything outside of this place, whatever they call it, for me to ship to Canada, it still costs $30. The book itself is basically $50 US or $49.95 plus shipping. The problem is I've eaten so much by mistake, but before I even recognized, I didn't think it was going to cost me that much to ship overseas. So I mean, here I was charging this much, $55 to ship to Australia, and I ended up paying almost for the people to take the book from me. So I know.
You didn't make that mistake again.
I didn't make. No, I only had to lose about, I don't know, $200-300 before it hit me in the head hard enough to go.
No, we'll buy in bulk here. We'll get some way of buying in bulk here. I have wonderful people involved, very much involved here. Graham overseeing a project to to expand this so we can bring the truth to as many as we can. So we have a divine office there, and so we can. I don't want to be right. I just want to be happy. I want the truth.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. By the way, I will have another book that will basically follow this up so people can understand. It's called Divinity. The second book is just called Divinity, and it's another testament.
Oh.
And what people need to understand is that the right of way means that you're first in time. And you got to think about this. Let's go back to that wall of the uterus where you're hanging on the wall like Humpty Dumpty. And then you fall off the wall, but you're still connected through the umbilical cord to the extraembryonic, which is now adhering. And remember, this is an adherence contract or in their belief system. So now I'm adhering to the wall of the uterus, and by extension, the umbilical cord is holding me to the wall. Now I come out of mother by extension. I come out of mother by extension through using my own biology. I am crossing over mom through the extension of the umbilical cord. So by extension of my own biology, I'm crossing, and I use the word cross specifically here. This is a crossover. I am crossing, I'm coming out of her biblically, using or by extension of my own biology. Now think about this. The umbilical cord allows me to get beyond the waters of mother into the new world. When they clamp and cut the cord, the birth day or birth certificated character evidences me being cut off from the way out. My way out of mother is the umbilical cord. What happens when I lose my way?
Oh, you're lost.
I can't get out of her. I can't get out of mother.
You
So
get
I
embedded.
need help by either the church through salvation or the state through salvage. I need one of those two, and I get to decide which one it is. So if you look at this as a triangle, at the base angle to the right, you would have the indigenous baby, i.e. needing salvation. At the base angle to the left of the triangle, you would have the ark or the boat left behind on the strand or on the island needing salvage. And then you have me at the top, the all-seeing consciousness, the all-seeing eye, making the decision or the choice between the two in their courtroom. I'm either choosing church or state. In reality, it's all nonsense. I don't need to make the choice because neither of them are true.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, neither of them. Now look at this. By extension, I come out of mother, so I cross over mother with my own right of way. And this is what people don't understand, is that it's my own biology that allows me to cross over. But they cut that off of me, so I can't escape. You're either the indigenous person on the land now, but you have no way back to God, which is your true origin, because they cut off of you. You also can't get out of her if you're claiming the birth certificated character on the state side, because you're still lost at sea because of the first 6 days unaccounted for. So it doesn't matter what they're doing, you lose. You lose by playing.
Yeah.
And the people that think you can do something, claim the beneficiary, do all this other shit, you're still playing. And you never are free of it as long as you continue to play.
Correct.
So the cross, what's the cross? How do you get hung on the cross? You're hanging on the intersection, the cross, where you fell. In other words, the material itself, once it's cut off of you, I'll use me as an example. Baby comes out, I come out of mom. Right now, my mom, let's just say she went into the hospital. You better be thinking Knights Hospitalers right now because they're the ones that invented the foundling hospitals. So they invent this place where Christian pilgrims are saved. The Knights Hospitalers invent the hospitals all become exactly that. So my mom goes into the hospital from reality into the corporate hospital. She's carrying me inside her womb. Does she even acknowledge me when she goes into this place? No, because the only one that has to sign in is my mom. So she's ultimately taking contraband into the country or into the corporate. Contraband, because I'm inside of her. Now, while she's visiting this place, this hospital, I come out of her. Now what? I didn't exist while she was signing in, so what the hell am I? I don't exist there. If mom and dad carry baby home, but they leave the afterbirth behind, the afterbirth remains a patient ultimately because they find it. It becomes the foundling child. So the afterbirth becomes the foundling child that gets a title that becomes institutionalized for the entirety of its existence, and it becomes subject to public health law. Not me, the baby, not the baby, but that material that has been cut off of us. Now, here's what's funny. In 1871, there was a court case called Haslam versus Lockwood. And what it was some people were crossing a small town. And while they were crossing the small town in their carriage, the horses pooped in the public street. But they didn't pick it up. They allowed the horse poop to become waste material in their world. So they just keep traveling across the township or whatever. So this poop is laying in the street, the public streets, the poop, the waste material. One guy comes over and he rakes it all up into heaps. Heap, by the way, is the word they used. He rakes it up into heaps because he knows that this poop becomes really good fertilizer for farmers. So he adds value by raking these piles of waste into heaps. Now he doesn't get back to it yet. He's going to come back tomorrow and pick all this stuff up in his own cart, but he doesn't. Somebody else in the meantime picks it up before he does. So now somebody took his heaps and brings it home and spreads it on his farmland. Now there's a court case between these two guys. One guy that actually raked the heaps and the other guy that took them away. Now here's what every single court case does. By the way, I believe all court cases are manufactured. They're all fake. They're all fake. They're all fictions. But anyway, Haslam versus Lockwood is these two guys arguing over this waste material. The problem is the true owners of the waste material must abandon it in order for either of these two guys to claim it. You have to abandon it first. So again, the horse poop belongs to the owners of the horses. If they don't make a claim on it, then it falls into the public or whatever, and these two guys can argue over it. That's the same with our biology. When the afterbirth human remains, when the human remains remain back there, it becomes presumably waste material abandoned by the owner. Now somebody can take that presumably abandoned waste material and make a claim upon it. That's our own biology. That's the afterbirth. They allow this afterbirth material to be born alive, another legal term, and the born alive legal term says that everything born alive or everything being the product of conception that comes out of mother's womb is a legal person. This is in Black's Law 5th edition. Look up born alive. It says the product of conception, blah, 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 blah. Each product of such birth becomes a legal person. Well, what's funny is the only product of conception now, not fertilization, the only product of conception is that accretion, that maternal immaculate conception, and that's part of the afterbirth placenta. So the only thing born alive is actually the mother's product, which Rome is claiming. And that's my point, is that the placenta is claimed by Rome as the human creature or the waste material, when in fact it shouldn't affect us as collateral. Remember, my biology is still connected to mom's biology in the placenta, which means my biology is collateral to mom's biology in the placenta, and mom's biology is collateral to mine. So if I remove my biology by knowing the entirety of my godly estate from fertilization to this moment, I, in essence, pull my biology out of that waste material. I pull myself out by knowing the entirety of my godly estate. So even though the placenta exists on the record as a product of conception, by me removing the entirety of my private biology out of the waste material, I'm not wasted. Oh, I'm so wasted, man. No, I'm not wasted anymore. And I'm whole. And when I'm whole, I don't need a physician. If I don't need a physician, I don't need a remedy. And if I don't need a physician, I don't need a prescription, which is what the Bible is. The Bible is a prescription to what ails you. What ails you is you being diseased by the cut, the human creature. So again, they're saying you don't need a physician, which means you don't need a remedy. They say you don't need a physician, or Jesus says you don't need a physician, which means you don't need a prescription. The script itself is the scripture. You don't need any of that shit when you know the truth of the matter all the way to fertilization. By the way, when you know fertilization is your origin, you align yourself with God. No middleman necessary. I mean, you didn't exist and now you do. You didn't exist and now you do. Where's the middleman in that? There is no middleman. It's I wasn't here and now I am. Thank God. Fuck that Roman Catholic Jesus bullshit.
Spot on. Spot on.
Oh, wait a minute, Kurt, that's heresy. No, heresy by Unum Sanctum's own claim, the heretic is the second coming. It says right in Unum Sanctum that there is no two beginnings. There's only one. Well, the one beginning is fertilization. The second coming, afterbirth waste material, is a second beginning. I don't have no born again bullshit. I was created one time and I'm directly linked to God. That second coming waste material or that cut material, if I believe in the cut material or the second coming, it presumes my own demise. It presumes me being cut apart. I'm going to eliminate the presumption by saying, I, for one, am all present and accounted for from fertilization to last breath. Goodbye, everybody. Game over.
Totally. Beautiful. Beautiful analogy.
All court cases are fake. All of them are fake. The Bar Association is all theater.
Yeah, we know we've been in and out of it. Most of us here, a lot of us on this call here have had many run-ons with them, and we brought them to their knees to a certain extent. But now with your knowledge and your wisdom and your insight, it's going to be a great game to play. Like,
well, you guys, again, I went into a lot of the English law and shit years ago, but the livery, LIVERY system, the livery system over there was a big key for me because then you understand delivery. The livery system, when you understand what is it, the chantry plays and all that shit, or when they talk about suffering, or when they talk about when somebody believes in Jesus and they believe in all that hanging on the cross, they're actually participating in that chantry play or whatever in those courtrooms. Court being theater. They're participating willfully in all that nonsense. And again, that's mental illness, by the way. That is evidence of mental illness. By believing in the spirits, it's being drunk with the spirits. It's being a drunkard. I mean, you're considered drunk with the spirits. And again, everything is part of that game. And reality wins. There is no jurisdiction for reality. Nobody gets this shit. There is no jurisdiction. The squirrels are not subject to jurisdiction. The trees are not subject to jurisdiction. And the man created in the womb at fertilization is not subject to their fictions unless he claims a Gregorian calendar birth.
powerful.
How many people are on this call, by the way?
There was 52 at one stage. There's 48 at the minute. Kirk.
So let's say 50 people were able to listen to this. And the neat thing about that is that it was recorded. Well, and that's why I tell people, record everything I ever say, ever. I have nothing to hide.
At the end, I'm an energy man, and I'm really into the energies, and your energy is just through the roof, and it penetrates the cellular memory from within the vessel, and there's no two ways about it. When I first heard you, I just knew that there. You're actually just unearthing a lot of stuff that we all have. We all hold this knowledge inside ourselves, and it's just now when we actually got a chance to play we, so to speak, on this call, it's enhancing all of us, and when we go forward, we'll enhance everybody else's. Now there's a lot more people on our group, and I'm involved with a number of other groups as well, and the new word order will be spread from high and low. Kurt,
Sorry,
by
can I
the
have
way,
a copy of this Zoom?
Yeah, you do whatever you guys do.
Thank
I mean,
you, Charlie.
I have nothing to hide, so go ahead and spread this stuff around. But here's
Thank
the
you.
thing. People don't understand that the head, the mind, is your ability to self-govern. And you've been decapitalized or decapitated by allowing your mind to be taken over by some other government. And this is really easy. I mean, Isaiah 9:6 says, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. Well, and that's a paraphrase, by the way. What's really weird is that when your mind believes in some other constitution, it doesn't matter what it is. My constitution is mind, body, and spirit. That's my constitution. So if I am diverted in my own mind to a 1789 constitution for some other fucking government, I have now, this is a form of sedition. Between me and God, this is sedition. I'm actually undermining my direct link to God and my own self-governance. I am now plugging in to another government called, I don't know, United States constitutional government. That's not my constitution. The same thing with the church. If my mind is diverted by a belief system that plugs me into another church government, I have lost my ability to self-govern. I am now following some other sovereign, some other organization. That's, again, sedition. This is where, by you disconnecting from God, so to speak, and I mean this, you're the one guilty of sedition. You're the one. And what people don't understand is the very thing that they're using is the terminal end of the umbilical cord. Think about this. I, as a whole, baby, umbilical, and extra embryonic, my body, my mind is still attached to the entirety. But when they clamp and cut the cord, a piece of me is not governed by my mind. It's been separated from me, and they plug that terminal end, that umbilical cord end, into their government. So now I believe the United States Constitution is my government. Well, it becomes my government at that point. If I believe that Christianity is my government, and there's that becomes my government. I'm the one directing what direction this thing's going, unless I know the truth. If I know the whole truth, back to fertilization, there is no cut, there's no terminal end to plug into any other constitution. And again, my constituency are trillions of cells relying entirely on my own decision making. I mean, if I decide to go get fucking hammered, drunk beyond all get out, guess who suffers? All of my constituents. My constituents. And that's responsibility. And again, Isaiah 9:6 says, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. Well, when they clamp and cut the cord, they have separated your own mind, your own head from all of that other material. So there's a piece of you that is able to be governed by another entity or whatever, but not when you're whole. When you know that material has been cut off of you, you're in essence bringing it back into the entirety with that knowledge. Remember, faith is destructive. Knowledge, remember, for lack of knowledge, my people shall perish. Knowledge is fertilization. Faith is birthday.
Kurt, you know what I wanted to say? I heard you saying that you sent a couple of letters in one of your podcasts. You sent letters to people and they resigned within a couple of days of it. Could you elaborate on that?
I'll give you the two examples I know of for sure. Actually, I have some ideas on the other people that received them, but the first example was once I learned most of this. By the way, I learn shit every day, so it's not like it's over.
We're all
but
the
I
same.
keep learning. Yeah, I know. I keep learning, and people don't realize that with these eyes, every day, these eyes are able to see more and more. When I recognized that they're using that material that was institutionalized via the cut, when I knew that the entire system of health, remember health, HEALTH means WHOLE, whole. When you start looking at the whole man, you'll recognize that only the whole man is considered healthy, and that's it, and vice versa. So if a piece of me is cut off and left behind to die, that becomes a quarantinable event. And I started looking at who in Illinois is responsible for public health or whatever, and it became the director of the Illinois Department of Public Health. So I sent 3 letters to him. Now, what's really interesting about this character, he's now employed away from Illinois at the global level, which means he needs to receive more letters. But when he received these letters, or prior to that, what's interesting is he said that he's now, at his young age, he's already in the job of his dreams. He wanted to be the Illinois Department of Public Health director. He was a practicing attorney and a medical doctor. He had both of those positions. But when he received 3 letters from me, he quit. Why would you quit a dream job unless you realized there was maybe a problem with deniability or criminal?
Well, the penny
He
dropped.
left
Obviously.
that. He knew it was criminal what they were doing at the level of the public health. He knew it was
And
criminal.
these people have been hiding from God at all times, and this is how they masquerade it. And when you bring it to their straight onto them, then that they have to capitulate. That's what it.
Yeah, they have to leave or be held accountable eventually.
Yeah.
So he
As
left.
Standard would say, foretold is forewarned, and it's true.
That's
You know?
why all I do is I write letters to shine a really bright light of the truth, and I give that to them. So I remove plausible deniability from their position. By the way, that's why the book does what it does. If people know how to use that book, they remove plausible deniability because I've written already the truth. I mean, I only put 5 letters in there. I didn't put all of them. I only put 5. But those 5 letters are the IDPH.
What about the one to the WHO, Curtis?
What's that?
The one you wrote to the WHO.
Yeah, that'll be in the next book for divinity.
Did you get any reply from them?
I don't know. I think so. I know that HHS, the Health and Human Services, is under direct attack now by the United States government, so to speak, or legislature. They're actually eating themselves now. The World Health Organization, I don't know yet. I don't really follow a whole lot of this stuff. People tell me that they see weird shit. I do see weird shit going on at the World Health Organization level. And again, usually it takes all 3 letters to get a response. So I have not written, I've only written the 1 letter to HHS, only 1 letter to the World Health Organization. But I think, again, with more of us waking up to this knowledge, we're going to inundate, and I mean that, we're going to inundate these high offices with truth, and eventually that shit will collapse under its own weight.
Well, I think that's a positive, corrective process that we all should engage in, which is basically doing it and
without
bringing
making claims. Without making claims. I mean,
course,
again, telling the truth is not making a claim.
Exactly. Standing in your wholeness is right, and just putting it out there, and that's it. And let them deal with their shit. We already know what they're at.
Well, there's something really weird about this too, is that no matter how scary it actually gets, and I mean scary. When I wrote the next letter after this guy quit, I thought, okay, so who's next in line? Well, how about the people that are standing guard at the port of entry to the United States, the port of entry? Well, whatever that means. If I come out of my mom's womb, that's a port. So when I come out of my mom's womb into this area or into the United States or into the Americas, I'm now coming out of one port into another realm. And if well, not really, because nature is not a realm. But if I come into, or somebody sees this as the United States or sees this as America, I am now coming out of the port of mother into this port of whatever. Well, the next in line for me was the Department of Homeland Security, because Homeland Security is guarding all the ports. So I wrote a letter to then Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, Homeland Security would be like the scariest of all, the scariest of all. And what's interesting is that my wife and I, Debbie, were eating sushi at a sushi place just down the street from us, and they had some TVs on around, but it was all closed caption because they didn't want all that noise. So we're sitting there eating, and I'm looking at this woman who is the Secretary of Homeland Security on a TV, and I point up there, and I said, Debbie, what does that say up there? And it said that this secretary had just stepped down or vacated the office 11 days after receipt of the letter. And I looked at Debbie and I said, holy shit, that's 2 for 2. And it could be coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidence.
No, definitely not.
And so I started thinking, and by the way, they never seated another secretary at Homeland Security. Now, here's my theory on what happens. When they receive an official letter to an official seat or office, what happens is they're forced in a weird sort of way to quit. When they are forced to quit that office, they're told to take all of their stuff with them, which would include any letters addressed to them. When they take the letters addressed to them out of that office, they don't exist anymore, because when I write to people, I'm writing specific. Now, new people are telling me, Kurt, you're not that smart. All you really have to do is address it also to successors. I get that. But well, anyway, what I'm getting at is the national, or the Secretary of Homeland Security, that office, that seat was vacant the whole time Trump was in office still. They never reseated anybody. Now, don't get me wrong, there were people sitting in it interim, but they didn't officially seat anybody after that because nobody would want that liability knowing that material was already in play. So they never officially seated anybody in that office again while Trump was in office. Now, I believe that's true. They did do it once Biden took office or whatever. They did reseat. But then I sent letters to the National Security Council chairman, who happens to be the president of the United States. Now, what is the National Security Council? The National Security Council is the government created in the late 1940s, which is the Christian government. The National Security Council is a Christian government. I believe it was created specifically for the UN interface. So that particular council is the council ruling over these measures. And by the way, that's the White House. The White House is the government for the National Security Council. White House. Remember, the word white is the Bible, yeah. Both Old Testament and New Testament. That's the white. And the White House, remember Casablanca, the movie Casablanca? Casablanca means White House.
Exactly.
So if you understand what's going on between the French and all of that stuff, it starts to make sense. But anyway, when I wrote to the National Security Council chairman, who happened to be President Donald Trump, those 3 letters were so powerful. I mean, I look at those letters today and I go, holy cow. I mean, he didn't step down, or did he? People don't get this. Then I wrote to Trump directly as president 3 more letters, or actually more. I think I wrote 4 or 5 letters to Trump. But by the receipt in March of 2020, when he received that letter, that's when COVID was put into play. Strangely, that same year, 2020, during the Trump re-election, remember I said everybody quit? I believe Trump stepped down, even though he probably won that election. I don't think he wanted to be reseated because, again, he had all this knowledge at that point of this material. Now, interestingly enough, recently Trump said that if he were reelected, he would, on day one, by the way, the word day one was capitalized as if it meant something. On day one, he would actually get rid of what's known as birthright citizenship. And now that's interesting because birthright citizenship is just soli. Just soli is of the soil, and of the soil is the accretion.
Powerful.
It's the birth certificate accretion. So he'd be getting rid of the very thing that I identified that ties us to Rome.
Correct. Beautiful. Obviously, Kurt, he has knowledge of this, you know what I mean? Prior to your letters too, when he's acting like that.
Yes. And so again, what's happening on the world stage, it seems preposterous that somebody can have this much power. But corporations don't have any life, so they don't really have any power. When one man proves life, he has more power than every corporation on the planet. So when I'm writing from a position of living, by the way, and I'm going to say this in a funny way, but Jesus returned October 26, 2018. When I put an affidavit on the record at Winnebago County, which evidenced my zygote all the way back to fertilization, that was when Jesus returned to this world, and the tribulation began October 26, 2018. So there's 7 years of tribulation, and look at all the shit that's gone on since October of 2018. This thing's falling apart. The Bible talks about revelations, but revelations is nothing more than a revealing of the truth. So when the truth is revealed, that world goes away. It's not nature that goes away. It's that story. His story goes away.
Yeah. Powerful.
Very.
We need more living people is what we need.
Exactly. That's all.
Yeah.
I am aware that you're 2.5 hours here, and I'm very, very much appreciative of your time. I understand how busy you are, and especially I'm a researcher. I research 20 hours a day, every day of the week. This is what I do. And again, like yourself, every day is a new day and every day is a learning day, and you know more today than you did yesterday. What we need to do now really is bring all of our thought processes together, because I believe it'll be a mighty power when we pull all that, because you don't need to hear the truth, you feel it. Your cells go, yay, that's why you get these goosebumps, because your cells for the first time since they've been in the womb has recognized, yes, this is the truth, this is it, I have it. So the truth does, because you can't help how you feel. You can deny what you want within anything, but you can't help how you feel. Sometimes it's stingy and it's a little bit painful too, but I call them breakthroughs, and you have to get through that breakthrough of your own ideologies. I would be very interested in catching up with you again if you as a because I'm your book, Charlie's ordered your book there for me, so I'm an avid reader. I'm going to eat it up, and I'd like then to come back and maybe get you back, and once I review it, because I can't give you an opinion on the book. I can only view as your videos to date, which being from a background in biology, I find exceptional. Especially genetics was my niche, and it sits right to me from fertilization till my last breath. So I'm very interested in working with you, looking at what it is that you have, and hopefully together that we can create more awareness. So there's the stone has already been thrown, the ripple has already been created. I don't care who gets there, how we get there, just let's get there is the thing.
I'm with you. And whatever you need, seriously, the old world, and I don't mean any disrespect. You guys are old world. You live in the old world, so to speak. This place here is whatever the new world they call it. I'm going to tell you that the old world is more receptive. It's more receptive because it makes more sense. The people here struggle with it because they're immersed in absolute nonsense all the time. And it's really hard to get this shit across to people here. The second thing is, I'm going to say about your being a researcher, you're not a researcher anymore, because when you find what it is you think you're seeking, when you already know what it is, your quest is over. So you don't need to request anything anymore. You're done. You have found what
I
you're
think
looking
that's
for.
why everything is happening in divine time. And like I have the greatest group of wonderful men who are up here constantly: John Keaton, John Paul, Richie, Graham, and they just do this at their own time, no finances, crossing hands, and they do this tirelessly because they believe in this, and I believe in it too. And again, I don't want to be right, and I don't care about getting it wrong. I don't care how many times I get it wrong, because I only have to get it right once. They have to get it right all the time.
Yep.
And in connection to that, the people here are going to see that very fast, because I'm going to maybe do a Zoom during the week. I'm going to write up my zygote affidavit, and I'm going to send it into the comptroller in Ireland, who, by the way, is Stephen McCarthy to the people here. Stephen McCarthy is the comptroller, COMPT, or Attorney General for this country. So that who I will be sending that today or tomorrow too. Will I be working on it? I have. I find this strange. It's only when you brought it to my attention and go and reading into tax documents, I see where they go with the 28 days, with gestation periods, and they have period mentioned in it quite a few times as well. And I find it absolutely fascinating. I suppose I had a good grasp of it, and a good angle, a good vision, perspective of what was happening. But I suppose the view that you brought me from was the bird's eye view, I suppose, and it kind of it put a lot more together for me, and built the whole, really, is what I can say. And make no qualms about saying I got it wrong again, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, no, you're not like me. I don't look at it as wrong unless you force it, unless you continue on a path because you have too much invested. This is the thing I run into with people here, is that they have too many years or too much invested
Personal
in the
involvement, or
wrong direction.
personally involved. I'm not
Yeah.
personally involved. That's the difference. I see that they can't let go of it. They hold on to the idea like it's life support because they're personally involved. The truth is
So
not
anything you need from
personal,
me,
and if it is, there's something wrong.
Yeah. Anything you guys need from me, let me know. Anything, anytime you need my input, or it doesn't even matter, just let me know if I can participate in any way,
Absolutely
because I
brilliant.
will go anywhere. I'll go anywhere where people will actually listen. Remember, how do you feed the pigeons? You know, you don't chase them. You don't
Yeah.
chase the pigeon.
Yeah. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Well,
Thank you so much for your amazing wisdom and time. And again, even for the people who I've been learning from without getting it wrong, without they're still stuck on that, because you have to go through these steps. It's like Jacob's ladder. You just can't get it right in the first go. And you have to go through breakdown of the ego, and you have to win the battle with yourself along the journey as well. So it's a big undertaking to do it, and I'm glad I'm here. I feel more at ease, and I don't feel like I'm swimming as hard any longer. I'm actually just treading out the water just nicely here.
John 832.
Yeah,
that's it.
absolutely. Thanks a million for your time,
All right.
Curtis, and we certainly will
Kurt,
be
you're a
having you
legend,
soon.
and
Oh,
Please God, you
gratitude.
might become as a
Thanks,
weekly
dude.
member on a Sunday, and we'll get this done together, because we are in
beautiful.
this together.
All right, I'm in. Count me in. Thank
Brilliant.
you.
No problem.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
All the best.
No, I'm not going to take care. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Okay. Well, be good.
Bye.
And so there
Brilliant.
was
Wow. Just
yeah,
wow.
I
Flipping
know it's
Nora
a
about
lot,
his tights. What was that?
It's
but
powerful. Hey, beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh.
I had to
Yep.
get locked up to know, unfortunately. But look, we have great ways now when we can learn how to use this and get this information into our wonderful men like Martin, and
Boy,
the Stokes
everybody,
Town
everybody,
boys
and
and
everybody.
our Bridget Scanlon and all of these. Look, we'll get there. All that we can tell you is that regardless how many times I get it wrong, again, I stand here, I got it wrong. And I tell you, this is why I tell you the bullets that I'm firing before I fire them. So you know what I came back with. So at least you're not going to waste all your time in that whole cesspit now, because you're going to say, oh, no, I'm not going down there. So this after saving you probably a year, maybe.
But there's a
All
lot
these
of
years of
teaching to
getting
be still. There's a lot of teaching to be still done, Sandra. As
Oh
you
my
know,
God, every
I'm,
day is a
as
Sunday.
Kurt even said, he's learning every day, and we have to keep on learning every day. But the
Sure,
whole
if you
fact,
stop learning, you die.
but
You're
the whole factor of the thing what's really getting me after all that there is the fact of us being able to now give letters to these people and bringing it to their attention and
I'm
showing
going to
them it's
do it this
exactly.
week. I'm going to do it, and I'm going
Well,
to tell you
well,
the bullet that I fired as well. I'm going to read it out for
but
you
not
as well.
not just you, but all of us. We
Overall,
need to,
yeah.
everybody has
And
to
again,
embody themselves into this because
it's insight. You'll know, and you don't have to waste 2 years or a
no,
year or whatever. If it's going to work, it will work. It's as simple as that. And we're in the perfect position now, because I just got a letter back from the court the other day saying that I had till the 6th of September to pay the bond, or that they would be issuing another arrest warrant, and I believe 3 days in prison. Now, I didn't, the 3 days is not written down in the letter, but apparently that was said in the court as that was reported back. I don't know. Um, no, I wouldn't be what I wouldn't be doing with the birth certificates is burning them. Absolutely not. I'd be returning them, render unto Caesar all things that are Caesar. Remember the Caesarean section to Caesar that's the Caesar's. The Caesarean section is the cut as well. And lots of the information that Curtis has given. I know this in all different pieces and bits that I've learned all through the years through the three trusts with Pope Boniface, and the way he has just brought the story beautifully together. It's like Anne and Barry was walking down the street. It was easier, and his delivery of it is exceptional. So I'm excited, and I think it's a lot easier than going through what I was going through with an AK-47 and running in like Trinity, not even knowing where I was shooting half the time. That's the truth. It certainly wouldn't be one way I'd be teaching. But again, you're in pole position because you get to see the end, but you still have to go back over the start to see how we got there. So again, the packages and everything we're still doing is still all coincides with everything. We're going to work our way
course.
from the end, and we're going to work our way back. It's so that you always are able to express yourself. You're always able to no, and you know, once it's inside, it's programmed into your cells, and that's it. You only, with the truth, it's not as hard. Like they need 7 years to program barristers and everything, because it's a long time to have to program the great brain to fiction. But possibly 3 times, when you hear something like this 3 times, that's when you're like, yep, it stays, and then everything on that. And it's an art in itself. It's not just taking one man's words for it. It's putting your own, like I have now a full picture that I have created, but it's my picture from fertilization, of from working and having various jobs all the way up from picking strawberries and stones right up to the HSE, right up to where I am now. And it's that collective knowledge from studying vaccines and spirituality and everything else that brought that my whole. But your whole is going to be, I know it's always going to be the truth, but you'll bring it together in your own beautiful little art. There's no mosaic is the same. There's no stained glass window that's the same, and that's what we're going to do. Is we do that by creating ourselves. Again, we really are. Any of the lads here tell you we're really this. What we're doing here is absolutely with pure blessings of God. Even I don't even like using that word now, because I keep hearing governmental ordinance division every time I see the word God. So creator. But for anybody who can help us out in any way, it's lifting a shovel to come up and help the lads to do a bit of work, or anything anyway, donations or whatever, please do contact the email group or Brian Mullen. Anything at all would be very appreciative of. It's taken a lot to get us here. And look, I don't care about birth certificates or anything else. I'd burn the whole lot. I'd rip it all apart. That's not what I don't care. I didn't want it anyway, and I'm glad that I'm able to go back that way. It's just when I heard the story that it was possible to claim it. Well, it wasn't that it was possible to claim it was the reason I was doing it. The reason I was doing it was because I believed while they had the power to administrate it without me doing it was, then they were able to administrate me. Sorry, Daniel, I'll just say goodbye on this, and then wait 2 seconds. Sorry, my young lad is just getting
But-
very impatient there.
but-
So look, I understand that you have yeah, so the link will go out into the email group. Mary and Brian are one of them will do that as soon as they get an opportunity. They've been busy as well, and we're all over the place in regards to the emails as well.
And the recording, Sandra, can be sent out too as well. As we're all on a mission here to spread the news
Yeah.
here that what today spread it far and wide.
Today we're all together.
Sandra
Today
said.
we're all on the same par. I always say what makes us unequal is our knowledge. Today we're all on that same knowledge, and today we're the ones who's going to bring this. One will turn into 100, 100,000, 1,000, 10,000, and that starts now with us. So
Yeah.
let's do it.
Lovely.
Let's get it done. Let's
Beautiful.
bring our people back to where they were.
Wow. Yeah.
Wholeness.
We can make them whole again. Sorry.
Oh, and by the way,
Sorry.
look up the word holy, WHOLLY. There's loads of different things that I'd love to have been able to have time and hawk. HAWK. Actually, for anybody who's really interested in shooting ahead, I do need a bit of help dissecting a couple of documents. One is the 1999 Consolidation Stamp Duties Act, and this is what they're doing basically. Is it's a crime if you're selling stamps or hawking, which is hanging around like a pro-war politician trying to hawk on someone to stamp them to create stamp duty. And this is basically what these criminals are doing. And that's what we need to do, is shine a light into every corner. We know what it is you're doing now, and we know the correct documents you're doing it out. If you can't deny your own words, we're not playing with the wrong tools anymore. All
Sandra.
I can say is it's going to get very exciting. I'm prepared. I'm ready to do it. My paperwork will be very different than Curtis's paperwork. I have my own understanding and understanding of my own creation. So, and I will share that with you as well. And again, you'll know where I went from there, and that's what I can do. I can't. I don't know how it ends. I'm just going to tell you how it's
Sandra, could you send that to Brian? Brian will send it on to Jean Marie, and Jean Marie will get a look at that the stamp duty thing. I already spoke to Jean Marie about that earlier.
Yeah, so the 1999 Consolidation Stamp Duties Act, and also there's very interesting ones, the 1923 Stamp Duties Act, and there was another one, the 1923 District Justices Act. That one is very interesting because it goes into, I actually had to go back over it. I'll wait till the classes to come on to it. I had to go back to Governor Gibbs and the printers. This comes into the printers that is going into that printing office in the Dáil, because there was an act in 1840, and then there was some agreement there with the workhouse, the poor workhouses, with a declaration that actually Arthur Balfour and Amschel Rothschild had a bit in, and then that was changed into the district asylums, which became governed by district judges, which we'll go into all of that stuff and all when we go into classes. None of these, what you're doing here now, is class. I'm just giving you an insight as into where this is going. Again, we still have to come back in order to go forward, but look, that's where we are.
No problem.
So
Brilliant.
have a great evening, and
You too.
talk to you all soon.
You
Sandra,
too.
just one thing before you go. Listening to Kirk talk there, could there be some sort of campaign to try and get young mothers and new mothers to, take their placenta home with them? Would we be cutting off their cord?
And it's easy done. I have a friend who had done it. Mick is his name. He went and he told him that he wanted the placenta. Now this is a God. I must get him on the phone. I must get him on one of these calls here some night. He's another great man. It's a good few years ago back anyway. And they were saying, oh, well, you can't have that. We get rid of that. And he goes, well, I'm getting the police. Or I'm getting the guards, he says, because that's theft of my property. And eventually they went down and they got it for him, and they did.
But
You see, what we need is an education surrounding that process. And this is why they bring into their Columbus hospitals. Hospital became a safe place to abandon a baby in 1912. And they're all military. And that's the Red Cross and the donation of blood.
Snakes.
It's so bad. You could do a whole conversation on that alone. I'm just delighted
100%.
that I'm just delighted that we have now more help to more heads is going to, because I know what I need to do. The problem, I don't have the time to do it all. There's only one of me.
You're being pulled. You're being.
I know this, that is strengthening me. You would be the right to keep the placenta, but I really, there's a project underway in the Isle of Man with Courtney, and Jenna is one of the birth mothers, and she's an assistant birth mother. And I do really want to reiterate to you, it's like McDonald's or anything. When you go in under their logo and they're signing your contract and with them, when you go into the hospital, you are in their military jurisdiction. You have gone inside of there. And it's something I certainly wouldn't ever be dreaming of telling anybody or condoning anyone to do. I do want to, and I know it because it's from a fear-based society, because we've been so programmed and separated into duality that we don't understand that even if we were in the wood on our own, our body would still give birth to that baby. We would never need any help whatsoever, or naturally your body would know. All you have to, if I would advise you, if you can, to get somebody who worked in, like, I know there's a great midwife, Shauna Kerr, she's wonderful. She left her job because of this as well, because she blew the whistle on a baby, mother, the baby who died in the womb after the flu. The mother got the flu vaccine, and there is people like that out there. So I would be very, I would absolutely say that I would recommend giving birth at home.
I have placenta of my son at home. I didn't let it to be cut in hospital.
Beautiful.
Okay, how long did you leave the placenta for?
He had it for 2.5 days.
Oh wow! And did it fall off itself then?
Well, it was starting to kind of rip off, so I cut it off. But
the best of it was gone.
I have it, and I didn't let them cut it off.
What do you intend to do with it?
Well, it's in salt and hidden, so it's still there.
I know my friend who I'm talking about buried it under an apple tree.
Oh.
So, and I know other people who has made it into powder form and use it to keep it for future medication or stem cells should the baby ever need them in future. So there's lots of many amazing ways.
I thought I'll just keep it for now.
Just keep it.
Yeah,
just
and
keep it.
you can freeze it, and then
Yeah.
later you can get it done up into oh, that's right, Divock, Stephen Lloyd. Yes, I saw that there a couple of years back. Divock is Hebrew backwards for COVID, meaning possessed by an evil spirit. And that's what it is. We are. So look at on that note, have a great Sunday. I hope you are motivated, and I will get videos of Curtis has gone into his there over the week, so you can have a look in. I'll try to get one with you during the week, but I'm going to really dissect this tax act and everything else to get my paperwork finalised, because if I get it right, it'll work.
Next
for us
Sunday's
all,
perfect,
if I can
Sandra.
show that it works.
Next
Again,
Sunday's perfect.
it doesn't matter how many times I have to do it. It makes no odds. I'm going to get it anyway. As long as there's breath inside my body, there's a way out. That's for sure.
4
There's
o'clock
never in
next
it.
Sunday, Sandra, is that right? 4 o'clock next
Next
Sunday.
Sunday, same time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
Great. And Christine is working like a Trojan there, printing some documents for me to get them ready, because oh man, it's like the Peto's workshop here, the lads, I tell you. Oh man, if I could even get in a cook to feed the lads who are even working would be a start. It's just a nightmare.
Daniel.
We're going to look back at this and we're going to even be in astonishment how we even did it. But anyway, it's all great. It's brilliant. So I'm looking
No
forward to
problem.
this week ahead. Well, now, and talk to you soon.
Okay, Sandra, loads of love.
Thanks,
Bye.
Sandra.
Bye-bye. Everybody, that was just a mind-blowing, fantastic, great stuff. Hey, I'm moving forward in a very positive, corrective process here, and this inner knowingness, we all have it, and it's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to all these letters, because I know
Yeah.
plenty of people that need a letter. I mean, and need to know. So until next week, enjoy the rest of your week, folks. And I know it's going to be an upbeat one at this. So the all of you, I love you all. Take care and be good. Bye.
Right, guys. Good night, everybody. Enjoy it the rest of your evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Thanks all. Cheers.
Bye all.
Bye bye.
Bye,
God bless everyone.